Okay, I think we're live. Pretty sure we're live. For some reason, my phone is not logged in. This is very strange. This is not normal. Fuck. Okay. I'm having some technical difficulties here at the start of the episode. This is tragic. Didn't think this was gonna happen. For some reason, my Twitch not being very cooperative at the moment. I apologize for the inconvenience. Yeah, I'm not too sure what's happening here. You know what, dude? Fuck it. I just won't use my phone. For chat, I will have to use my computer, which is a lot less reliable, but I guess that's just what I'm going to have to do, because obviously I don't want to sit here trying to figure this out for too long. Um, but okay, we're good. We're just going to start it. How about that? Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Evil Geniuses Bleed Blue podcast. This is episode 33, where we talk about as much as we can about Evil Geniuses, which today is going to be quite a bit because I have not given updates on Dota 2 in a while. League of Legends, I don't think I've done an update in a couple of weeks, which maybe would be for the better considering how the past couple of weeks has gone, although I will admit the last week did go relatively well, but we'll get into that later. Um, and then Game Changers started for Valorant, so I wanted to touch on that as well. And then obviously the CSGO section is going to be quite lengthy this episode. Between I do want to briefly touch on some of the news about Piggykiki, who's on EG Gold. That's been an ongoing kind of investigation, or there's been ongoing research on that topic for the past almost a year now. So wanted to kind of touch on that, but then obviously the big piece of today is going to be going over EG CSGO's run at the or lack thereof a run at the Blast Fall groups. So going to be talking with Current on that, and we have a little special new segment that we're gonna try out for you guys. So stay tuned for that. Um, so hopefully you guys will enjoy. But I guess to get kick-started here, without further ado, let's talk about LCS because the playoffs are approaching. The LCS playoffs are indeed approaching, and my text is not going to work. Okay, there we go. Yep, the LCS playoffs are approaching, guys. The regular season has ended for League of Legends for the summer split. EG, where we last discussed about EG, was they were doing pretty damn good. They were tied, I believe, for first at the time um, with Cloud9. Um, I think they had just lost to Cloud9 was the last time that I gave an update on them. Um, the subsequent weeks have been up and down. I would say the 2 weeks before this last week were not particularly great. EG kind of looking like a team that could be exposed a little bit. Some concerns were cropping up. This is a team that nobody really expected to be that good and ended up being one of the best teams in the league. And it was a cool story, but I think people have realized that EG is definitely fully powered by Jojo Pyun, who is the mid laner, obviously. Um, to kind of, he's been the MVP of the league. He'll probably get MVP this split. He's looked unbelievable. He's had some shaky weeks, or some, really not shaky weeks, but I would say mostly shaky games, like very rarely. But I think for the most part, he has been easily the best player on EG. And because he's the best player on EG, and he is their driving force, he gets heavily banned against in pick ban for his champ select. And yet he's still able to produce. He has a very deep champion pool. And he's just been fantastic this split. So he's looking pretty good. Honestly, it's looking like he might win MVP. But the main concern with that is that the rest of the team is good, but not. There's no like standouts, right? Like who picks up the slack when Jojo Pyun isn't able to do what he's kind of been doing, right? That's the concern with this team. And it kind of showed in the last couple of weeks. There was a week where EG went 0-3, which not very normal for them this split, but it did happen. And they lost a game to FlyQuest, who didn't even make playoffs. So there are some concerns with this. I think heading into playoffs, I think if you're an EG fan, you're probably feeling relatively confident that this team will make it to Worlds because the top 4 teams will make it to Worlds in some capacity. I say that because really top 3 guarantees group stage of Worlds, but if you get fourth, you go into the play-in, which is essentially where we were last year. But we got third. So for some reason, NA has another slot. I don't really know why that is. Seems kind of strange. The NA region is pretty terrible, so a little surprised by that. But you know, whatever works out in our favor. Look, I think EG worst case scenario should be top 3, but there is a chance that they could get fourth or that they don't make it at all, depending on how our teams able to counteract EG and kind of throw them off guard, because they have shown to be very, very strong, but I do have concerns on if Jojo Pyun really is the only way that this, you know, is he if they shut down Jojo, what happens to the rest of the team? I think Unforgiven has the potential to carry a game if he's, he's a great talent. He's really smart. So obviously, he's one of he's a European import. So I think he definitely has the potential to kind of be that guy who can step up and take that role. I would like to say Revenge, but unfortunately, the way the meta is right now, top side is usually the weak side at the moment. If you're playing through your top side, that means probably something is going wrong. That's probably not a good thing. So I would tend to stay away from that. We also don't know if Armeo is. I don't know that it's been officially announced if Armeo is playing in playoffs. I think Shaden has been playing pretty well. He was kind of stepping in to just gain some experience, right? He's been playing well in academy, so you might as well move him up to the main roster, give him some LCS level experience, and on the stage, and allow him to develop further as a player. But because he played pretty well, now you're kind of in a question of, okay, well, what happens if like Armeo plays his first game against TSM and it doesn't go very well, right? Do you decide to put Shaden in? Are they even going to start Armeo? Who knows? He's been good this split, but there's a decision to be made there for sure because Shaden and JoJo have a lot of chemistry. They seem to get along pretty well. So yeah, there's just you got to be careful about how that's going to work and what's going to happen. So as I just previously mentioned, EG is going to be starting in the upper bracket quarterfinal. Um, going to be playing against TSM. TSM, a team that has looked okay, has looked much better with Insanity as their mid laner, but EG is typically handled pretty easily. I'm not too worried about the TSM series, but if they beat TSM, they have to play Cloud9, who kind of just looks like the best team in the LCS as of right now. They have their flaws and sometimes they struggle, but the last time, the times that Cloud9 has played EG, it really hasn't been all too close. So yeah, I'm not too confident about the Cloud9 series. So some concerns, right? Potentially, but the thing to note is if they do play Cloud9 and if they beat Cloud9, they're guaranteed a spot at Worlds, because that the worst case scenario is they would get fourth. So yeah, so if you make it to the Cloud9 series and you win, you've secured Worlds. So it's a pretty big series to be honest. But should be interesting to see how everything goes. I think overall this split has been pretty fun to watch and to pay attention to. We're a team at the start of the split where completely rebuilt the roster around JoJo Pyun with good players, but outcast to some extent, and some concerns on changing the entire roster, making it around JoJo Pyun specifically, right? Like a super young player hasn't really shown. This is his first split, I would say, where he's shown like super hard carry potential, where he can just take over a game, and just be the most impactful player on the team. And he's done that this split, and it's looked fantastic. So, it's been fun to watch JoJo Pyun play. Um, Revenge has been really, really good, and I really, really like him on the team. Um, Big fan of his. And yeah, Armeo has looked really good. Won a Player of the Week, I think, early in like week 2 or week 3 or something like that. Um, you know, um, Unforgiven for some reason was being benched over double lift on 100 Thieves because they don't know what they're doing. Um, so that's an easy one for us. And then, Ayla has been okay. He's been all right in the support role, and so yeah, this team is just we're surprisingly good. I think it might be a better than the sum of their parts type of team, but at least when you're playing against a team like a Cloud9, um, maybe even a Team Liquid. Team Liquid has been kind of showing a little bit of a resurgence. NRG especially has been showing a little bit of a resurgence towards the end here, and that could be a team that maybe makes a sleeper run through the bracket as an underdog. So yeah, who knows? One thing's for sure, it's going to be interesting to watch. There are favorites in these series, but like Dignitas is starting in the lower round bracket. But like, do you really want to play a Dignitas with Jensen and Santorin in a playoff stage? I don't know. Those are two really good, experienced players, so would be a little bit scary having to play against them. I think the teams you're not worried about playing are probably TSM and 100 Thieves. I think those are the two teams you're probably less stressed about. But yeah, it should be an interesting playoff run, and hopefully the boys make it to Worlds. It was really cool seeing them at Worlds last year, but admittedly it wasn't NA, so I think it'll be more interesting to some extent to see them go to Worlds elsewhere. I don't really remember where Worlds is being held. Let me look it up. Let me see. Where is Worlds 2023 being held? South Korea. So yeah, it would be super cool if they went to Worlds this year. It's also just a lot of good experience for some of these players, right? I don't know that Revenge has ever. Maybe he's gone to Korea, but I don't know if he's. I don't know if he has very often or whatnot, because obviously Immortals was not a very good team with. Well, he had a tenured career there. He was pretty much their best player. But yeah, it would just be a great experience, and I would be really looking forward to that. So hopefully they make Worlds because that'll be really cool to watch them play there. So, but first, obviously, got to get to the playoffs. So see how they do. First game against TSM, best of five, starts on the 27th of July, which is going to be on this Thursday at what time? What is that? 5 p.m. Eastern. 5 p.m. Eastern. Yeah, so 5 p.m. Eastern, or 2 p.m. West Coast time, so Pacific. So yeah, should be fun. Really looking forward to it. I'm a little anxious, but I think everyone always is when you're kind of in trying to fight for a position in Worlds. So yeah. Anyways, moving on to our next topic, Dota 2. Now I haven't spoken about the Dota 2 team in a while, actually. Um, Mostly because they were one of the best teams in the world, or they are one of the best teams in the world. Um, but there wasn't a whole lot going on. They placed really well at I can't remember which major it was. It wasn't this last recent one. It wasn't the Bali major. They actually performed really bad at that major. It was the one before that. Um, they performed pretty good. I think they made a deep run. I think they were like top three or something like that. Top three, top four. Um, Really solid run. So I was feeling fairly confident, honestly, for the rest of this year. They had just gotten better and better and better throughout the season, throughout the year, and yeah, I wasn't really too worried about them. But yeah, like I said, the Bali Major happened, and they didn't even make it to the playoffs, which is really really bad. Yeah, EG is way too good of a team to be bombing out. I mean, they literally didn't get a single win um, in terms of a series win. Uh, Actually, did they? No, they didn't. No, they had three ties in the group stage, and four 0-2s in a group that looked somewhat competitive, right? Nine Pandas is in there, PSG's in there, Gaming Gladiators is in there, but overall that's not an incredible. I mean that's a group where you should there's other teams in there where that you should be beating. So yeah, just a really poor showing at the Bali Major, and then now they're playing in the Riyadh Masters event, and it's not going too good. It's not looking good. They're in the group stage, and they are one of the worst teams. They're sitting at sixth place, which is the worst possible. Actually, Yeah, sixth place, which is the worst position you can be in to still make playoffs, and you make it in the lower bracket. But it's a little bit more complicated than that because it's a three-way tie between EG, OG, and Extreme Gaming. They're all 5 and 7. Sorry, my Discord notifications are on. And Yeah, so I'm sure there's going to be some tiebreakers there, and it's looking shaky. They may not even make playoffs of this event either. That would be two events in a row where they just kind of bomb out in the group stage, which would be obviously pretty shocking. And this is a little worrying sign to see so close to TI. TI is going to be happening in October, so yes, they do have quite a few months before then, but there's not, I don't think, too many events. There's no more majors between now and TI, so yeah, it's kind of scary. We're in some scary territory. I mean, if you look at the rankings, EG has fallen to fifth place, which isn't anything that bad. But considering these past two events have been as bad as they've been, compared to yeah, the last major was the Berlin major where they performed pretty good. So yeah, worrying signs for the Dota 2 team. Also wanted to note, as was mentioned in the article Richard Lewis posted for EG, he's been doing a lot of articles on EG and there's mismanagement and how bad the upper management has treated players, treated staff members. Thorn has also come out with videos regarding this same issue. He did mention that, I had always said that I was happy in a way that the Dota 2 team was based in South America because I was hoping that that would mean that they wouldn't have to deal with all the bullshit of people like GamerDoc and Nicole too often, and that they would just kind of let that team do their thing, um, and they wouldn't have to deal with the bullshit. They could be under the EG brand without having to deal with all the upper management bullshit. Well, I was wrong, because apparently the players had repeatedly requested for um, a mental health coach, which is pretty standard, honestly, amongst esports teams. It's a very standard, sports psychologist type thing. You want one of those people on board to kind of, to make sure that you guys are in the right mental headspace. It's in ever since Astralis and Counter Strike, really really found a lot of success with that. It's been kind of blown up into basically a must-have for any esports team. Now, because they're based in South America, obviously, they didn't have, there was no person, that was readily available, I guess, and they didn't have anyone on their own because they weren't on previous teams. It's the South American region isn't exactly like they don't have a lot of money, right? So, look, basically, they had asked for some type of sports psychologist, mental health coach or whatever, and Nicole basically just wasn't doing it. They essentially I believe they were forced to at some point. I would recommend reading the article to be sure. I can't remember specific details, but I do know they had basically asked for it, and Nicole really wasn't was seriously pushing to not do it. Um, don't know if it's laziness, doesn't want to spend the money. I don't know what it is, um, but that's just a shame to hear. So yeah. A shame to hear that even the Dota 2 team in South America is getting, you know, uh, disrespected and treated poorly. And it's even crazier because, this TI is going to be in Seattle, which is where EG is based at. And so I'm sure they're going to be at the practice facility. They're probably going to be in the main headquarters. I just hope everything goes well and that the environment there isn't bad, but I can't imagine, with the way that from all these articles and stuff that we hear Nicole get talked about, it's very much like, dude, she could be really hard on them, and yeah, I'm worried. I'm really really worried about the Dota 2 team and how they're doing, because I think this is, I don't know that this is a this team sucks type of thing. I get the feeling this must be some kind of mental barrier that's in their way. Because this team was looking really, really good until now. So it's too vast of a drop off for it to simply be that they're just, oh well, they just lost all the chemistry they had, and they're just not playing very well, and whatever. Obviously, I don't know the specifics of Dota 2. Maybe a patch came out that changed the meta, and now whatever EG was doing before isn't really working now. I have no idea, but to me it just looks pretty rough and pretty drastic, and yeah, it just makes me question what the mental of the team is at the moment. So hopefully everything's okay, and it's not, the sky is not falling, hopefully, and hopefully they are able to make it to TI and play well. So we'll see. I'll keep updating you guys on the status of the team as they progress and get closer to TI. But yeah, so that's the little Dota 2 update. Um, shoot, I'm gonna get so many Discord messages. I feel so bad, but I can't. Maybe I can turn off notifications. I'll try to see if I can turn off notifications. That way, we don't have to hear those in my background all constantly. Okay, yeah, it's getting annoying. Oh jeez, oh jeez, no, oh jeez. Game changers is gonna be the next topic. Give me one moment to mute my notifications. Oh my gosh, where do I? Dude, it's not stopping. It's not stopping. Notifications. Okay, I just turned off notifications. We should be good. Um, Sorry about that. I apologize. Okay, so next, game changers. Game changers is happening. Game changers is happening. Um, I haven't kept up. I kept up with what the? Why are they still? Oh God, I'm so mad. I just turned them off. Oh, here we go. Disable all notification sounds. All right, we're good. We're good. We're good. We're good. Sorry, I thought I did that, but I guess not. Game changers. Sorry about that. Game changers, guys. Game changers. So, context. Look, I kept up with game changers last year, in the sense that I was following their performances. I have not watched their games in depth. I can't recall if they made any roster changes. I feel like they did. But yeah, listen, I followed their progress. They did okay last year, but ultimately there were teams that were just way better than them. Um, but this year is looking different. I don't know. This year looks pretty good. We beat Disguised uh, in the qualifier, in the closed qualifier, to make it to qualify essentially for the main event. And yeah, so I guess from what I know, right? From what I know, Keen C, is really good. Um, Duelist player, super super good. Power Pixel, initiator, plays a lot of KO and whatnot. Super strong player as well. Stephanie, in-game leader. Thea and Sholiana, I believe, were also. I remember those names for sure. I think Keen C and Power Pixel are new players to the team, but Thea and Sholiana are. Um, they've been on the roster before. So yeah, overall their run through the qualifier was pretty simple. They 2-0'd everybody that they played without too much difficulty. Disguised was honestly no match for EG. They had a close game on Fracture, but Ascent was relatively simple. Had a pretty massive attack side run where they went, freaking 10-2. So yeah, even with Disguised picking up a couple attack rounds themselves, it just eventually the run was going to end for them. So yeah, overall, pretty happy with how this team is playing, obviously. And yeah, I'm looking forward to see how they do in the main event, because I think the main event they kind of struggled last year. So I'm really hoping that this time we make it a little deeper. A lot of for context, EG's like female slash I know Game Changers isn't specifically female, but those types of rosters that they have, like in CS:GO, for example, like I'm just going to be honest, the teams aren't that good. They have not performed well, um, you know, in the past year or so. They have not been very strong teams. In fact, I vividly remember EG CSGO team going to one of the bigger um, CSGO events and just bombing out completely. So, um, yeah, so I would like to see one of these teams do really, really well. So I'm looking forward to it. right now they are scheduled to play against. They're scheduled to play against FaZe Clan at 5 p.m. on July 26th. So that's, I believe, Wednesday. Yep, that's Wednesday. So, yeah, and it's a double elimination bracket. The teams you want to be scared of seeing during this event, definitely version 1, probably the best team, I would say, in this in this main event and potentially in the world. They are really, really good. They have some incredibly talented players. So definitely a team you don't want to play against. And then maybe Shopify Rebellion, maybe XSET as well. But I do think version 1 is probably the team to beat at this event. Definitely the number 1 team you don't want to play against. So, yeah. Overall, though, I'm just hoping that they get a deep run here and something to get us excited about the team, because they look pretty good. So I'm hoping that it carries over into the main event, and we're able to show some strong form. Yeah, so go support them July 26th, 5 p.m. Eastern. You know, um, 2 p.m. Pacific. So should be interesting, right? Should be interesting. So that is pretty much it for Valorant. Um, yeah, so I think now we're gonna get into the Counter Strike portion of the you know pod. So yeah, I guess I will try. Let's try to see if I can bring on Current onto the pod, and we will start with the Counter Strike section. So give me one moment while I figure this all out. Give him a call here. Hey there.
What up?
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay, I'm gonna put up the volume. I gotta make this. Oh, I gotta show my face cam, obviously. Let me change my screen. Okay, okay, we change my screen. Let's do this. Grid, camera. Cool. All right, I need to change my screen a little bit. It's not lined up properly. I don't know why this always happens to me. I feel like I have to
Only
change this
you, dude.
dude, I have to change this every single time I do this, and I don't know why. Do this. Okay, we're almost there. All right, that's gonna have to be good enough. Oh, I gotta change yours a little bit. All right, I think that's good enough. Okay, cool. So, as I've now finally figured this out,
Yeah.
I will have to do some tinkering with the new segment because I obviously didn't have any. I didn't call anyone to set it up to practice it, so I'll probably may have to make some modifications there. But for now, this will have to do. So, I guess first and foremost, I do briefly, and you don't have to comment on this if you don't want to, but I do want to talk briefly on the Piggykiki situation for EG Gold because that was something that I had originally read about back when the first report came out in October of last year, I believe, and I thought it was strange. I thought it was really weird, but I was like, all right, like Eminem's is reporting on it. I'm sure he'll, make a follow up to this, and I'm interested to see what comes out because I as far as I knew of Piggykiki, right, she was just like the new EG Gold player, and she seemed
Hmm.
relatively young, and I was like, okay, well, like
Right.
maybe she's got some talent. Like I'm interested to see how they do. Spoiler: the EG Gold team was absolutely atrocious last year in terms of performance results, and went to the big. I think they went to the. I don't remember what the event was called. Uh, I'm now mixing up my terminology with Valorant. I was about to say Game Changers. The GG for all event. I don't remember what
I think
they
so.
what they call it specifically. It's not
Yeah.
coming to me right now. But they went to that big event. I think they played like Enigma Galaxy and got absolutely destroyed, and they ended up
Sounds
being like
about right.
last place at the event. It was really bad. I remember Kasad making a tweet about it, but essentially it didn't go very well, obviously. And yeah, but yeah, so no other reports had come out for a long, long time, and so I was kind of just like, all right, well, maybe it's just dead in the water, right? Like obviously
Mhm.
it's just a it's a female CS:GO team report. Like no offense, but not a lot of people were probably going to care about that report. Not many people were reading it. Probably nobody cared. Also, you have to keep in mind, like, a lot of the times when a CSGO player gets like, oh, their account is banned or blah, 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 it's like, not a lot of people care about that kind of news anymore, to be completely honest, unless it's like a really, really good player that's up and coming that gets banned and for some reason now can't play at a major or can't play at a big event. Then it matters. But
Yeah.
for the most part, people just don't care. Um, so I didn't really think there was going to be anything else on this, but Eminem's did make another report where he basically its headline is EG Piggykiki cleared to play as ban evasion ban uh, get that straight lapses under new policy. Now I had actually seen the tweet that he mentions in this report where Piggykiki had basically said like something along the lines of like oh, here it is. I have been cleared of the rumors against my name after a year. Thank you to those who always believe in me. I will make you proud. And when I read that, I was like, okay, how did they get cleared? And it's like she said it before anything was really known publicly. So yeah, I was not really sure what that meant.
Yeah.
Basically, Eminem's goes through this whole thing explaining exactly what happened. For those who don't know, basically Piggykiki was suspected of some type of cheating. She was basically banned on Faceit with multiple accounts. Um, but it didn't matter because ESL Impact, that's the term, I just remembered it. ESL Impact, basically, because it was the ESL Faceit merger, yes, it had already happened, obviously, but they hadn't applied the rules from the ESL section to the, or from the Faceit section to the ESL portion of their tournament running operations or whatever. So essentially, even though she was banned on Faceit, it didn't matter because ESL Impact was using ESEA, and therefore it didn't matter. So it was like, okay, she's been banned, but we don't really know all the details of her ban of what it's related to, why it's there. We also don't know, and obviously it doesn't matter because they haven't applied the rule set yet. Um, and so basically, the concern was, okay, but when Faceit and ESL when they merge their rules together, what's going to happen to her playing career because obviously if she's banned she was not able to play an impact, so they're going to have to find a new player. EG will, and so that was the big, that was what got reported back in October, and kind of had been pretty silent until now. But basically report came out from M&M's and he basically goes through and he explains how, look, yes, the rules ESL has now what has announced that the rule set that the leagues are going to be, the Faceit and ESL and ESEA or whatever are all merging together. So that would impact ESL Impact and Piggykiki. But Piggykiki's bans have been lifted essentially. And so what what Eminem's found out is he spoke to a EFG representative, which is the ESL Faceit group. It's the merger, and they found that, well, this is what the representative said. Piggykiki's ban on Faceit has indeed been lifted. Following the merger between ESL and Faceit, we are aligning policies across our products. As a result, and as communicated on our community support portal, our banning policy, including bans due to cheating, has been adjusted on June 26th, and past bans have been updated accordingly. In the specific case of Piggykiki, her ban expired according to the updated policy, meaning she's able to play again on her Faceit account. And so, yeah, basically, um, he basically outright says like, yeah, she basically was cheating. Like she was
She
she
was
was
banned.
cheating
She was
and she got
cheating,
banned.
and now she's
So
good. Yeah.
yeah, that's literally what it says. Um, and yeah, so what's crazy about this and what makes this so strange is this seems like a pretty open and shut case at this point. You know, she basically got banned for ban evasion, for essentially for using a cheating ban. So
Mhm.
it was pretty open and shut. I didn't really think. I was like, okay, well, glad we got clarification. Whatever, sounds cool. Like, she got away with this one. I will say, I was a little bit like, okay. look, this wouldn't be the first time, and this happens with EG in multiple different esports. It happened in League of Legends with the Danny situation. This wouldn't be the first time where things conveniently work out for a player on EG who is partnered with a league. For example, the LCS basically covered up everything with the whole Danny situation and is kind of like, oh, we're making an investigation, but they're actually not going to say anything. Um, you know, even EG tried to, I think what it was, a lawsuit for
Yeah.
the talent for the whose line is it anyway section. Like,
Yeah, they like I don't know if it was a full.
I don't remember
They
if it
I
was a
think they were
full
threatening like a
lawsuit, but they were
defamation
threatening
like
for it.
lawsuit or
Yeah,
something.
exactly.
Yeah.
So like it just seems a little convenient. But okay, she got away with this one. There's no way to prove it, right? There's no way to prove EG did anything, so sure, fuck it, why not? Benefit of the doubt. But I was a little bit disturbed by the tweets that came out from, actually, surprisingly enough, Seven Licious, who wasn't even a part of EG when this all happened.
Right.
Like, she's new to the team. She played with NIP in Sweden. So her connection to this situation is just strange to me. I don't know why she was tweeting all this. Or just this in general. She
Mhm.
tweeted, Kiki's been cleared, or because she quote tweeted the report by
Right.
M&M's, and she said Kiki's been cleared out because she didn't cheat, not because of a new policy. Okay, well that's factually not correct if you read the article, but okay. And then EG Kiara base God Milk, she's one of EG's players. She's been there for a while. Said so many misinformed folks, and so I was just like, what pissed me off about this was, look, I'm cool with supporting your teammates, but you guys don't understand when you're making a tweet like this, you're basically saying that like you're kind of impugning Eminem's reputation by saying stuff like this. Like, oh, dude, like they don't even have the story right. Like they're reporting this and they're not even correct. Like it's not because she didn't cheat. Like she didn't cheat. It's not because of the new policy. Like you're basically saying everything that he reported about is incorrect. So it's like obviously it's not going to matter much. Eminem's reputation isn't going to get impugned by some ESL Impact players. Like spoiler, it's just not. He's too good of a journalist and he does bigger stories and whatnot. So
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. But if you are like a professional player and you're a very popular professional player, like if Simple did something like this, it would be a serious. You're that's that's
It'd be
Eminem's.
an issue.
His
Yeah.
reputation is everything essentially. So you can't be just doing that. So I basically was just like, look, I'm cool with defending your teammates, but like, can you not just like if you're the evidence is clearly against her, unless you have evidence to prove otherwise, like just don't say anything. Just keep it quiet. Like you don't need to say anything. You're making it worse by talking,
Yeah.
essentially. And she got pretty pissed at me. Kiara did. She said, "LMFAO question mark. Where's the evidence that she cheated? Oh, I don't know. In the article. Show me that. All she is guilty of is account sharing, and her ban is up for that." So, so, so let me get this straight. According to Seven Licious, she never was banned. In fact, she didn't cheat. She was never banned. But clearly, whatever. If she truly cheated in Face It or Impact, which I don't know why she mentioned or Impact because nobody said anything about her cheating in ESL Impact, literally nothing. So it's like, why are you mentioning ESL Impact as if now it's like,
Yeah.
okay, like you're not making it any better, and now it's like, well, did she cheat in ESL Impact? Because nobody said anything about ESL Impact, but you're bringing it up now. So and you've been her teammate this whole time, so yeah, that's a little suspicious. Um, if she truly cheated in Face It or Impact, they would see that, meaning ESL Face It group. I'm assuming
Yeah.
they have the logs, IP, whatever. No one has to disclose anything to you. Um, yeah, it turns out, yeah, you're right. They did have that information, and that's why she was banned on Face It. Like, I don't know
Mhm.
what else. Like, it's in the article. It's literally there. They also she mentions that she wants to hear something from someone from the ESL Face It group. And it's like that. That was also in the article. He literally had a statement talking about, hey, this is why she was banned. This is why the ban has been lifted. Like, what more information could you possibly ask for? Like, it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I saw some other people saying something like I want to hear a statement from Piggykiki herself, and it's like, guys, what anything she says it doesn't matter. It literally does not matter. She could say that she was guilty and you would still have to be like, I mean, granted with the evidence that's already here, you'd be like,
Mhm.
well, okay, I guess she's guilty. But if If there was no evidence whatsoever and she said, "Oh, I am 100% guilty of this crime," and then just didn't give any evidence, like technically you can't listen to what she says and you have to actually find the evidence. So she could go out and say like, "Oh, well, I never cheated and these are my it doesn't matter what she says. It
Right.
really doesn't matter at all. Like you don't take it into consideration whatsoever. So you can ask for a statement from her, but it literally does nothing to justify or, you know, um to defend her point.
Well,
Um
especially at this point, I think it's just. I mean, she's cleared to play, which is all that really matters at the end of the day,
right.
right? So I think stirring up a whole lot of this stuff, I agree with you. Where it's like, yeah, you can stand up for your teammates, just make sure you don't overstep your mark too much, right? With what your statement is conveying. Um, but at the end of the day, she's cleared to play. She could say, they might ask for like, oh yeah, what does she have to say? Well, it doesn't really matter because at this point the decision's been made. She can
Yeah,
play. It's fine. So like,
exactly. It's
and
like
it
why
it feels like things are
why are
getting
you making
stirred up
this?
for kind of no reason.
Exactly. It's just why. Like
It would
why
be
are you
different
making
if they
this?
came out and said like, oh, our investigation's still going forward.
Right.
Like she's not cleared to play up until it's complete. Then you can stir shit up. You can like start your rumors. You can like defend her and everything. But at this point, she's clear to play. So just be happy she's clear to
It's
play.
like
You know.
just shut the fuck up and don't tweet anything. Like did you not see what happened with GamerDog? Did you not see what happened with all these other people who tweet stuff
You not see what
for
happened
for
between
no
me and
good reason?
Stamina?
Yeah, like dude, shit happens. Like could we just, it's just common sense, guys. Like listen, go support your teammate, go have fun playing Impact, but don't be straight up lying because you're not informed.
On
Um,
on the topic of EG Gold,
yeah, sure.
I believe I'm aware of at least one of their new signings.
Oh, isn't it
I
Julie?
believe you. Yeah, I believe
Yeah, yeah,
I
from
can't.
the
Yeah, Julie. I believe
yeah,
she
she
will
was
be
really
signing to
good.
EG.
She did really well in
She
the
she did better than
CCT.
Breeze.
Yeah,
So
or wasn't CCT? What
I
was
had
the
it was
it was the
da,
Thunder
da,
pick,
da, yeah, it was the
right?
Thunder pick. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
she was good.
Um, yeah, I had to
It was
give
a
her
really good
five
pickup.
gifted. I bet her that she wouldn't get five gifted. I
You wouldn't
pitted
give her
her and
to Breeze?
Munster. No, I pitted her and Munster up against one another.
Oh, really?
And the first thing after they lose is I get a DM from Yuli saying like, "Yo, so we lost, but you got to give me the five gifted." And I was like, "No," I was like, "No way." The first thing you do after getting absolutely smacked by X Snakeston is come DM me about this five gifted. I bet you.
But you got to give me your 5 gifted.
I already had. I did. I'm
That's
a man of my
hilarious.
word. But
Yeah,
she
yeah.
did do better than Breeze.
No,
So
it is
I
a
mean,
good
she
development.
was on CLG Red and she was really good on that team, and
Yep.
she got dropped for whatever reason. But
Yeah,
yeah,
season
I don't
3.
know who their fifth will be, but
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, and like Seven Licious looks like a good player too. Like they both look
she's
like good
she's
players.
she's nuts.
So I'm excited to see them play. I think they've made upgrades, so I'm all for that. I want EG Gold to do well, especially because look,
I mean, somebody's got to combat. I guess what it's now FlyQuest, right? So
FlyQuest and
and
FlyQuest
Enigma
and NA, and then Enigma
Galaxy.
Galaxy just destroys everything. So it's just crazy.
Yeah. So I mean, Furia used to be good when Olga played for Furia,
Yeah, yeah,
and then she left to like China,
yeah,
and now she plays with like a bunch of Chinese women. I guess
crazy.
whatever.
But
And actually, Detonate Spark is pretty good.
oh yeah, 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 yeah. They were really good in the regular season. I remember that. Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, it's
I
mainly
keep up with them, but
FlyQuest.
it's crazy. But they've made upgrades, so hopefully they
Yeah.
do well. Especially because I know, look, I don't fully believe that they actually care. But they EG loves to post on how they support women and are very progressive and whatnot. So it would be nice if you had some you know female teams, more inclusive teams in general that were performing well.
Yeah, I agree.
So yeah, definitely. Hopefully they end up playing well in Impact in the future. But okay, that's all I wanted to mention. Because listen, people are gonna flame me. People are getting at me. So like I wanted to just put my position out there. Anyways,
Yeah. All right.
into the the big week, the big topic.
The big week.
Yeah.
EG Black. Oh wait, hold on. I'll be like every caster this entire week. EG Black. Oh, I'm sorry. I mean EG main team because they got upgraded. God, dude. If if I had $1 for every time I heard a caster or analyst reference that this is the EG Black team, oh my god, I could quit my job for at least a month.
Yeah,
Like almost every time they're like, "Oh, this team's looking pretty good," but just remember they're EG Black, not the other main team. And it's like we know this. Like
Yeah,
Relax.
I think a lot of people were mentioning the whole, obviously that this wasn't the intended roster from the start, which
This
I think is a
the
fair point.
backup plan, quote unquote,
Right. Yeah.
which
Yeah.
which we talked to Vorberg, right? And it's I think after talking to
Yeah, I
him,
think
it
he.
is fair and clear that you can have a backup plan, and I think it was an obvious backup plan.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
But I think honestly though, it's worked out fine.
Yeah. I think let's quick just kind of before we break down the maps specifically, or the series specifically. Um, I guess like expectations going in.
Zero, none.
Yeah, I basically didn't have any. I expected them to probably finish last place, which they did. Um, but I was hoping to see competitiveness. I think was the hope, and I think for the most part they
I
delivered
think
on
we
that.
got that.
Yeah, I think for
I
the
think
most
I
part
think
they delivered on that.
after they got their kind of their nerves out playing
Hmm.
Vitality, right? Getting the Vitality draw is like really fucking scuffed, but that's what's just going to happen until they get better and get better
Yes.
seedings
Hmm.
in their rankings. Um, but after they got their worries out and like nerves playing Vitality, being on land, playing against EU, right? I mean, they came out and brought it to NIP, right? I mean,
Yep.
uh, and then just most recently they brought it to G2. So I think, and I got my map request. I mean, my expectation was like this would be really sick if we can get one map off on the EU team, and we did. So my expectations were met. Um, I think it was a good showing, all things considered, right? I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. I think it was.
hell, Complexity upgraded with a Liege, and they finished just the
They
same as
finished
we
last as
did.
well, and
So
in fact, I would. You could make the argument that.
you can make
I
the
think like
argument we did
complexity
better than
did.
Complexity.
Yeah, and like complexity did beat NIP.
Yeah,
But
that's true.
I think their last showing against let's see, who was it? Who did they play at the end? They played
Complexity
Astralis.
played.
They played Astralis, and they kind of got
They
battered.
got worked. They got worked.
Vertigo was kind of close, but the overpass game, I watched that. That was just tough to watch. And that's a map that they're really good at. So it was a little bit of a deflating way for Complexity to end the event. But I think, you know what? EG showed some serious promise. I think this team, and I think, I'll back this up as we talk about each series and whatnot. But I think this team, let's to just kind of go over some of the overall stats of the event. It paints a pretty clear picture on what this team is, or at least what they're looking like they're going to be,
Hmm.
in terms of what works for them and what they things they need to improve on and whatnot. So look, in terms of play, in terms of the player stats, which I think the last fall groups that we looked at was the one where like Hext was literally at the bottom and like
Yeah,
it was just we had like three players in the bottom five. Yeah, we had three players in like the bottom 10, but um, Junior was the highest rated player for EG and was at a 1.03 rating. He played pretty damn good. Obviously, I think I've criticized him a lot in the past, but I think he's answering my criticism quite well. Like he's answering my questions for me. Like he looks like he still does make some mistakes, but I think he is definitely like he's ready this time. Like I think he
hmm
is actually going to perform as this team gets better and better. I think his performance will continue to improve, and I think he's that narrative of him not being able to play against the tier one competition, which is something that I expected potentially to continue. It might be going away. Like he has looked a lot better
he
recently.
has.
The next highest player other than the junior was automatic, of course. 0.98 rating. Mr. Consistency. So yeah. Look, Hex George were around the same place, and Walco was the lowest rated player for EG. Um, Not the worst thing in the world. I actually do think, although Hex and George were rated quite poorly, I do think to some extent that some of these poor ratings are potentially a little bit inflated by some of the beatdowns that they experienced.
Yep.
Um, I do think that those definitely probably played a role in lowering their ratings. They had a couple maps that clearly they weren't even remotely competitive in, where it probably hurt their ratings quite a bit. But I do think Hex showed improvement this event in terms of his decision making. I think was much better overall. And George, I could tell like first event, a little bit of nerves, but
hmm
I think he has some serious potential as they did in that little blast video, the little short video they had. I think
Yeah.
George really is that kind of player where like once he starts getting into the EU scene a little bit and he understands how teams play, he's going to be really good. And I was impressed with Walco overall. With his calling, I do think sometimes maybe a little bit overcooked, maybe sometimes a little bit too slow, but it's just natural when you're new into the space and whatnot. And I think the key things for EG this event were um, the stats to pay attention to were flashbangs, utility usage, and trade percentage.
Mhm.
So flashes, they were, let's see here. In terms of some of the statistics, EG was the fourth best flash assist team at the event, and their utility damage with HE grenades, Molotovs, and incendiaries, they were number 3 in the event. Um, but the main concern, the main problem being their trade percentage, which was the worst at the event, 17.6%. They were really bad at getting trade kills, which I think was very clear to watch when they weren't playing well. Um, Multiple times where a player would peek, get killed, and there'd be too much time between the next player peeking, whether that's, indecision in wanting to push the bomb site or go and rotate back to the other bomb site. That seemed to be a big problem for EG. So yeah, I think why the utility damage and the flash assist is a good thing, or why that's I think that the identity for this team is if they can develop that even further, if their team chemistry gets better, I think this is the kind of team where you want them to be better than the sum of their parts, and their utility usage to be the catalyst for that. But ultimately, their chemistry needs to improve, their trade percentage needs to be higher in order for them to execute that better and start beating these teams. Um, so that's what I saw overall for the event.
Yeah, overall, I think the junior stigma is going away, but I think it really shows how important having junior be comfortable really is,
Yes.
right? Because the reason he really blew up in the first place was he was playing with Bad News Bears, right, where they've been playing at the tier 2 level forever, and they started popping off with Sheikh Zula and all them, right, and then he got picked up by Furia, where obviously Furia had to switch from Portuguese speaking to English speaking just for Junior. Uh, Junior probably was extremely uncomfortable being with that kind of different culture, different type of team. He gets completely shit on. Everyone kind of loses faith, and now he's slowly been brought back with this EG Black team. So I think it shows that comfortability is really important. Um, he was second in opening kills rating,
Yes.
right behind Blame F. So, and the next biggest was like Nico at like 20% less success than
Yeah, I believe
Junior.
he was also second or third in op kills
Yeah, so
per round or
like
something like
Junior's
that.
looking like he's gonna be the guy, right?
Yeah.
He reminds me of Cirque in a way
When he
of
was in his when he was playing aggressive in his prime.
well playing aggro, right?
Yeah.
Like doing what he felt, like going with the flow of the game, not like he doesn't have to be strictly structured.
Yes.
Maybe he's told where to go, what pick to go for, but he's allowed to like be that free flowing, moving op kind of piece on the chessboard, if you will, that can do kind of what he wants if he thinks it's best, right? And I think that's the biggest issue that ended up going with Cirque was some things got a little too structured for the type of play he liked to do. Even same with Wiz, right? Wiz was always kind of structured and always more passive, but that wasn't never really what the team needed at the time. Um, but really, I want to talk about how the just overall difference between the team we've seen the last year, right, versus what we just saw in this one event. I mean, I saw more protocols, more comfortability than I ever did probably with that last team we had. I think it just shows that how important team chemistry is for one, and like player compatibility is. Now, don't get me wrong, we were praising EG sometimes on some pickups that they made, right? But it all worked in theory, but it never really worked in practicality. But we've seen with EG Black now, with them being in ECL and a couple qualifiers, right? Like they have that chemistry built up. They know what each other does on certain protocols, and I think it really showed in a lot of rounds, right? We did things on CT side, Mirage. I was only really able to catch Mirage, unfortunately, but that I'd never seen the main team do like ever, right? So I think overall, I think it was a really good showing. Once these guys get confident and get used to the travel schedule, the playing on land, the playing against these really good structured teams, I think we're going to see a lot of big things come out of it. And shout out to EG CSGO's content team. I don't know what the
Yes.
fuck changed within
THUNDERPICK, baby.
yeah. THUNDERPICK, I guess,
THUNDERPICK.
changed within the last year up until now. um,
I love the vlog. The vlog was great.
the vlog was fucking
I
sick.
just hope that it's not one of those vlogs where they only release shit when EG does remotely
When
well.
EG does something like okay, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Um,
but I loved it.
but no,
I like the lengthier vlogs as
yeah,
well.
I liked it. I liked hearing. There's one line specifically that Tommy, like Axe,
Mhm.
said when they were playing a game, and he said, "George, I want to hear your voice, and
Yes.
I want to hear. I want before we make a decision, I want to hear something from you." Like I thought that was like massive.
Yeah.
I was like, that's just shit that we've talked about all the time on this podcast that we've always wanted to hear, and but it sounds really good.
Yeah. I was super happy to see that they posted a vlog.
Yeah,
Something that look, all these esports teams, or even the tier two teams, are posting great content, and it's like we should be there. Like there is no excuse at this point. So I was happy to see it. Um,
shout out to our overlords, THUNDERPICK.
yeah, yeah, with Thunderpick doing good work. Um, yeah, I guess we can get into the Vitality series to start. So breaking down the veto, EG removed Anubis. Looks like potentially a permaban there. Vitality remove Ancient. EG pick Overpass. Vitality pick Vertigo. EG removes Inferno. And Vitality removes Nuke so that Mirage was the third map. Um, so
We got smacked
yeah, it honestly the veto didn't matter too much. We got a total of 9 rounds to
in two
Vitality's
maps.
32. Um, and frankly, it should have been worse. It should have been even worse. It's just that EG on their overpass ended up winning the pistol round, stringing a couple of rounds together before they finally lost the map. If it wasn't for that, and EG had lost the pistol round, this game probably ends 16-2, 16-3. So yeah, definitely not
But hey, we weren't expecting to come
ideal.
out and beat Vitality.
No,
I mean, there was
I
that. We
wasn't
had that
expecting
like
them to beat Vitality, but I was
no, we had
certainly
that. We
expecting
probably
better
had
than
that.
nine
Yeah,
rounds.
we had that like 20% hope that because Vitality had brought in Flamesy that maybe they weren't as seasoned as they wanted to be coming into the event.
Sure, yeah.
Um, but obviously, I think raw power alone, Vitality just kind of smacked the shit out of us.
Yeah, they got outclassed, and it wasn't even remotely close. You know, I don't know. Look, overall with the series, I think it was obviously a shit show, but I frankly I wasn't too happy. My look, 9 rounds, a generous 9 rounds to me wasn't good enough. And I understood, look, nerves, new team, I get it. First tier one event, sure. Playing a top three team in the world, sure. But 9 rounds just was not good enough for me.
That's fair. Nine
I
rounds
was
with
hoping
what, like
for,
a week and a half to 2 weeks of prep because the drawings
yeah,
for this Vitality match came out. I mean, they knew for at least a week, right?
yeah, and
Maybe 2.
arguably maybe they couldn't prepare too much, but I just was hoping to see a little bit more. Now I will say, and I'll point out on Overpass when we do a little bit of a spoiler VOD breakdown. There's a round that I want to go over, 2 rounds actually, that I think. Look, EG just showed some good stuff. In fact, I think on Overpass they had a lot of opening picks that just couldn't convert 5v4s, but and they even sometimes put themselves in good positions. But when they did, either there would be a small misplay from one of the EG players that would then cause a chain reaction and they'd lose the round, or the anyone on Vitality would just get a massive multi kill and just get out of the situation scot free, due to a lack of trading or just really strong individual play. Um, so it just felt like nothing was going right, which is why I thought on Overpass it was potentially going to be a 16-0 because it just felt like every time, even if EG did something right, they were losing the round. So yeah, frankly, I wasn't very happy with the performance. I mean, I was glad to see Junior perform as well as he did overall, but I was, for the most part, and I liked some of the things I saw from Walco's in-game leading in terms of how he approached. It seems like he's very heavy on, or he likes to, for finding opening picks, converging on players in isolation from multiple angles with flashbangs and whatnot, and I really like that style that he has for
Mhm.
how the team plays. But I think overall it was I was pretty disappointed. To kind of break down and start off with Overpass, and this is where I'm going to attempt to um, to do this, obviously, I might have to change some of the camera positions. We'll see in a second here. Let me pull this up. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen. I think I was using the application. Okay, and it went over there. So I think I'm gonna have to move stuff because that is not what I was anticipating. So, okay, yeah, not what I was anticipating. So I gotta move stuff around. God damn. Oh, actually, can I move? Can I just move you? Is
Oh,
it?
sick, sick. I'm the main guy. Let's go.
I'm trying to
I'm the
move
main
the.
cam.
I can't move it. That sucks. Okay, well, that's unfortunate. All right, I'm gonna move you for a second. This is so scuffed. Oh, I just moved the whole background. Okay, do this. Widescreen that. Select you. Okay,
High production value here on the
look at that, dude.
Bleed Blue
We're
podcast.
we're the best. All right. So, granted, I've done this, but every time that I do this, I'm gonna have to like click my Discord because otherwise, it's like the preview doesn't show up. So that's
Yeah.
annoying. But whatever. So let me find the round. Let me pull over my. I took notes. I took 2 pages of notes. I watched every fucking
Jeez.
game. I watched every game, and I picked out rounds that I wanted to that I thought were interesting. I'm not gonna talk about all of them, but I do want to talk about
Damn.
just a couple. So map one, overpass. The round I want to find is round number 7. This was, let's see here. Let's see if I can get to it. That's round 6. Okay, round 7. Now, what you're going to see in this round is some good openings, a nice idea, but ultimately it's going to fall flat due to some lack of execution, proper execution, I would say, in this particular round. So let me just back up a little bit. Okay, perfect. So I will full screen this and do this. All right, cool. So we're in round number 7 here, and we're going to see Zywoo get boosted up or jump up to here, and he's going to win this fight against George for the opening pick. But George gets a good trade onto, I believe it is Spinks. So he's going to come around the corner right here and peek. This is where the trade kill happens. A flashbang thrown, I believe, probably by Junior was supposed to catch probably Spinks as well, but Zywoo full flash still gets the kill. This is right here, still a good situation overall. Like, okay, you're in a 4v4 T side, which is favorable for you. Now, here's the immediate reaction from Walco. Walco immediately, after seeing all this information, essentially, he's going to decide, okay, we just, we killed Spinks. Spinks usually plays over here in the bathrooms position. Zywoo was picking by divider, or at least that's where he's going to be. That's typically where your AWPer plays. So we're going to immediately start taking this long control because we know that this space is available. And so that's what you're going to see happen right now. You're going to see all these players move over, start taking long control, essentially for free after getting that Spinks kill. And what you're now seeing is going to be where they're going to get ready for this A side execute. They're going to bring more players over here. They're going to send 3 players towards long, and Automatic is going to kind of be standing in this position. What he's doing here is he's going to be watching for the flank, the long flank. He's going to be watching for a player coming up connector to rotate, and he's potentially going to come in while the site tap right before the execute happens to try to kill anybody that's in this bathrooms area who's trying to kind of have a crossfire on these long players. So that's what you're about to see here. They're going to work their way up long, doing a little bit of a boost. Junior ends up, I think, missing a shot on Apex, maybe? I think that's Apex. Yeah. So they're getting ready for this execute. They saw Apex back off. Here comes the side execute. And I'm going to pause. Here comes the Molotovs. It's going to flush Apex out, move him over to the flower bed, I think. Or no, he's going to stay APC. So what happens here briefly, okay, Zywoo gets this kill on automatic. So he spun around, he deagles him in the face. So unfortunately, what this means now is all of these players are now getting funneled into a crossfire between Apex and Zywoo. What originally was looking like a 4v2, really good sight hit is now turning into something a little bit more dangerous. Not to mention, I believe this is Hexed here. I think he gets team flashed. So he's swinging wide on APC, but it just doesn't matter because he's fully blind. And all of these players are going to start looking towards ZywOo because he's the biggest threat because he has the op and ZywOo's just ZywOo. So you want to take care
Right.
of him as quickly as possible. It doesn't work out. They're all focused and tunnel visioned on ZywOo, and Apex just gets the easiest 3K of his life. And so this is just an example of a round that looked pretty good, had the right plan in mind, but just kind of falls apart due to some unfortunate things happening and some maybe some tunnel vision on trying to trade out ZywOo in showers. So that's the first round that comes to mind. The next round that I'm going to bring up is going to be, I think, round 13. Yep. So this is pretty much in the dumps at this point. Things aren't looking too great by round 13, but they actually have a pretty good idea here. It just doesn't really work out. So let's see here. It takes a while to load all this stuff up for some reason. This is this the round?
Yeah, that's round 13. That was the highlights from the round of us
Yeah.
losing it.
So let me go back here to the start. Here we go. So let's see here. So this is a force buy from EG. This is going to end up being an A execute with 2 going towards bathrooms, 3 going towards long. So as you'll see here, they're going to work their way through the map. Good utility to try to take some map control here. Playing pretty passive. They're playing actually. Vitality's playing a pretty heavy B setup this round. So it's actually so far it's a pretty good situation for EG in terms of
Right.
this execute could work out pretty well.
Hey,
Now
click
a
your
lot of
Discord, by
things.
the way.
Oh yeah, my bad. So a lot of things are going to kind of happen here. So I'm gonna pause real quick, right? So Sphinx is sitting over here by Divider. He's going to get entryed by Hex over, who's currently over towards the connector. Automatic is Hex is kind of playing the cover for Automatic at the moment, so that's what's happening there. And then basically Apex, who's sitting on truck again, on Optimus. He's going to get executed, and this time they're going to throw the same util where they're going to try to Molotov him out of this position. It successfully works, and he actually has to move over to the flower bed, and he's basically wide out in the open. Sounds really good. Sounds like they're about to get into a 5v3.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And essentially they kind of are. It could have been done a little bit better though, because what you're going to see is that they're going to team flash Automatic, and so he doesn't get this flower bed kill that as quickly as you would like, and so the long players have to do it, and it takes a little bit extra time. And what that allows to happen is that Magisk is going to rotate all the way in from B. He's going to go up into dumpster. He's going to push out of the dumpster smoke, and he's going to run through the dumpster smoke and get 2 kills. He's going to and then EG's not going to trade in time, and so you'll kind of see as this happens. He's going to buy so much time that the bank smoke that's stopping ZywOo from doing anything is actually going to fade, and essentially they're just going to get mopped up. So there's the automatic team flash. There come the kills. Here comes Magisk running into the bomb site, gets 2 kills. Nobody swings out to APC to trade him, so he's just sitting here for free. Gets more kills, buying more time. There drops the bomb. ZywOo, the smoke now fades. He gets a free kill. Flames is on the flank, and the round has just fallen apart. And it becomes very difficult for them to win. So, just another example of things looking good, things going well, and just a little bit of just missed timings with the flashbangs, a little bit of a lack of coordination. Nobody swinging out APC to get Magisk killed. If they had gotten Magisk killed while he's
It's a
coming out of the
completely different
dumpster
round.
smoke, they win the round no problem. It's pretty much impossible. Zai was stuck behind a smoke. Flames can come in for the flank, but there's just too many players alive for EG. There's nothing they can do. So just really unfortunate series of rounds. And I think what I'm mainly trying to demonstrate with these 2 particular rounds is good ideas from EG, great um, entries into bomb sites, really good 5v4s that are coming in place, or just putting yourselves in a really good position to win a round, but just at the very end lacking a little bit of that execution and chemistry that ends up costing them the round, and allows for other individuals on Vitality to make plays, and they're good enough players where they're going to punish mistakes like that. So Anything in those that you want to kind of talk about, or that you think maybe you see that I haven't mentioned?
Um, from what I see, really, I mean, it's in agreement with you, right? Obviously, demos are 2020 hindsight,
Sure.
but I will give them slight praise on the fact that, in theory, these things work out, right?
Yes.
I'm always going to compare this team to the last one, right? Because that's just what we do. Is it an improvement? And so far, it is, right? I feel like if we were with the old team, we're not even execing a site with like 5 people. We're doing it
Usually
in,
not.
like
No.
we're doing an
Usually it's
exec with like 3 or like 2, right?
and usually it's a
With that,
contact play.
yeah, and it's a contact play. So we're using this utility correctly to flush out the Optimus player. We smoked bank, smoked dumpster, right? I'll give props to Magix at some point. Like his movement was really good to like isolate those duels and take
Yep.
those 1v1s. Um, Obviously, you don't really count for somebody protocol wise to come flying through a smoke, that dumpster smoke. Uh, but I think in Magic's eyes, he's trying to support Apex, who got flushed out to Flowers, Zywoo, who's trying to hold down Divider, right? Or no, sorry,
Well,
Spinxer was holding down.
yeah, I mean, I think he's essentially just trying to make a play to get themselves back into the
Right.
round. And unfortunately,
So,
because of the team
yeah,
flashes that were hitting the long players, they were never able to be in a position to stop Magic from just running through the
right.
smoke.
Right. And I think it just comes down to timing, right? And practicing that. Um, but yeah, I think overall it looks good. It's hard to say, right, with so little tier 1 experience, what's good and what's not fully yet. But
Yes.
I mean, they got it down to a 1v1. I mean, they recovered in some ways, right? Obviously, the 1v1 of Junior versus Zywoo is not extremely favorable and for us, uh, but I think those two there show Walco's calling in comparison to Nealon's pretty well. And it might not even just been Nealon alone, right? It was a lot of different things.
Yeah.
But we got to the point now where this team is at least doing like able to take map control without losing too many bodies or anybody at all. So we're able to actually do a full fledged execute onto a site, which is honestly really good progress based on what we've seen. And I think for the entire like most of the series that I got to watch, like the narrative and kind of the vibe of the casters, if you will, is like completely different to what it's been. But
Yeah.
yeah, on those two overpass clips alone, though, I think yeah, some unfortunate. I think mainly in the first one, it's a lot of unfortunate circumstances that kind of came in, not trading Apex quickly enough. But on the second one, I would also just give a lot of props to Magix and the way he was moved around Optimus. But I would also agree that the flashes coming in from short were a little late almost, right? Because we already had 2 guys up on the site, and if that's how they if that's how they planned it, right, then that's one thing. But from our point of view, it looks a little clunky.
Yeah. And I was gonna go back to the original podcast view, but apparently because I
Now
moved
it's
these
broken.
around,
It's
now it's
broken.
broken on the other one. So I'm just gonna keep it on this screen as we
Yeah, it's
talk about the
fine.
rest of them because I'm not changing them every single time. I'll fix that later. But yeah. So I guess moving into I guess what I can try to do is maybe just use this screen here. So um, okay, so I think, look, I don't have anything for the second map. The second map, they got completely outclassed. It wasn't even close on Vertigo.
Yeah, they
Like there
got
was literally, I couldn't find anything. Look, maybe you could find some very minute positives, but there really wasn't a whole lot to say in terms of that map two on Vertigo against Vitality. They got outclassed in every way, and it was very clear from that point forward. Teams were going to want to play Vertigo against EG, if at all possible, because clearly it's not a map that EG was very good at. So that was
I will
just
say, at
something to
least we're
note.
winning pistol rounds.
They are winning pistol rounds. They are doing that.
But
So
yeah, overall, I think that kind of that I think those 2 clips and knowing how Vertigo went kind of just highlights how that whole series kind of went down. Like
yeah,
Overpass, there was definitely some like good ideas, which is something that we can take forward. Of okay, like this was really good, this was bad. We can tweak this, tweak that. Um, Vertigo, it's probably one of those hard ones to look back at and not just see a bunch of hindsight things, right? When you get beat that bad and you go watch the VOD afterwards, all you see is like, oh well, everything was wrong. So there's not even like what do we even work on it?
Yeah,
So
yeah. Yeah, so then next up they played NIP in the lower bracket. NIP, a team that frankly I don't think are that good. I think they
they
honestly got a
are
very
not,
fluky win against Vitality that I don't understand how that
dude.
happened.
I think
Um,
Hamp is coming in for Alexi B is dude. I don't know where all this. I know this isn't even EG, but I don't know where all this Alexi B hate comes into play.
it's
I
massive.
really like I really like Alexi B. I'm a big fan of Alexi B. I don't think he was really the issue in G2. I don't think he was really the issue in NIP.
Nah.
He just he's like he's like the finished Daps dude. Like he just keeps getting replaced for
Yep.
no reason. Granted, Daps's fragging was always a little bad, right?
Sure.
But I mean, if you look at it, it's just he's not the only issue or the main issue, and I don't think that getting rid of Alexi B is gonna fix NIP. But I mean, I say that now, but they made it through the groups, so or yeah, they made it through groups and go into the fall final. But yeah, this NIP team is like not hot shit, at least yet. I would say.
Yeah, I don't particularly think they're that great of a team. I think they
I honestly
kind of
thought we had a shot
skated through. Yeah, I think we had a
against
shot,
NIP.
and I yeah, like I said, I just don't understand how they beat Vitality. I think that's one of the craziest one-offs I've seen since EG beating Heroic. But
That might be the biggest one off in history, dude. That
it
might go down in CS:GO history. The biggest one off.
yeah. Uh, Essentially, so they played NIP, pick ban, EG remove Ancient, NIP remove Anubis, which is why EG removed Ancient, because I guess they
I think
I guess knew that
NIP's
NIP was
permaban
going to
is like
remove
always
Anubis. Might as
Anubis.
well. EG pick Inferno. NIP pick Vertigo, obviously, considering how the last game went. EG remove Mirage, NIP removes Overpass, and then Nuke is the last map left over. Um, this is a map or a series that I would say that if it had gone 3 maps, I think considering how well we saw EG play on Nuke after this, I think they had a damn good chance at winning the whole thing. In fact, I mean, look, they very easily could have, in my opinion, gone 2-0 in this series and beaten them on Vertigo and Inferno. Look, we'll get into Vertigo a bit later, but um, the Inferno game was very winnable, very very winnable. They kind of tossed, frankly, at the
That's
very
that
end.
15-10 scoreline, dude.
The 15-10 score line. They even had rounds in OT to close it out and win the series, and they just couldn't do it. Um, Lots of the recurring theme for this team was not being the best at closing out games. Something
Mm-hmm.
they're struggling with quite a bit, which isn't surprising when you have a young team. Isn't surprising when um, it's all new. Everything is new. Their chemistry isn't that great. When you have a trade percentage that's as low as theirs, it's going to be tough for you to close games.
Yeah.
And so that was just kind of how things went. But I think what was most notable about this series was one, this was the first series where you really got to see EG's impressive utility usage, flashbangs and HE grenades and Molotovs. You really got to see how good they can be with that um, during the series, and that was really impressive to see. And you also got to see that when they're not playing that well, that utility usage tends to drop off a cliff to some extent. Um, or at the very least, their flashes. Maybe there's a lot of team flashes coming in. You start to see some of the issues break down and the chemistry kind of fall apart a little bit, which we'll get to on Vertigo. But for Inferno, a couple of rounds came to mind. I think you know. Let's see here. Round seven again, another round seven. Was just kind of a masterclass of flashbang usage. If I'm being completely honest, it was yeah, just some really good flashbangs. Let me see if I can pull this up here. That's all the way in overtime. 14-10. That's too far. Let's see here. I need to go even farther. I am struggling big right now. Okay, so this is round six. So it's the end of round six. So I will just move on to round number seven here. And yeah, what we're going to see here is they do a very interesting. They end up going for an interesting play where they're going to go 4 arch, hitting the A bomb site, which actually NIP reads relatively well. They have 3 defenders on the bomb site, but because of just how good EG's flashbangs were, it just didn't matter,
Mhm.
and they end up winning the round. So in a second here, I will. Of course, there's a timeout. So in a second here, I will make sure that you guys are able to see. So here we are. This is round number 7. And yeah, so EG showing presence towards banana, also showing presence towards brackets control. Um, and eventually they will be sending the majority of their players towards arches. So this here comes the I believe that's an arch smoke. Yeah. And then the flashbang, really good, makes Hetrick have to back off. Gets blinded again, so he can't repeak. You're seeing 3 players on the bomb site. It's looking like a tough hit. Only 1 player towards lane, and it's Junior. But a nice smoke to be able to scale. Good flashbangs. Hetrick blind again. Just overwhelmed on the bomb site. Hetrick stuck on the bomb site now. He has nothing to do. There's a player in pit who hasn't been able to do anything this entire time. Gets 1, but they're actually not even really going to deal with him too much. Automatic comes in with a great flank, killing the arch player, and they're kind of, again, they left config alone here in pit, just not really worried about it. Hex playing really well, knows that the position is definitely that there's going to be one there, positions himself well to get that kill, and now you're looking at a 3v1 with Brolin having nothing to do with 4 HP. So just a round where, frankly, things weren't looking too great. You see 4 players arch, 1 player lane. Doesn't sound like a great setup when there's literally three players on the bomb site, but just doesn't matter. Because of the great flashbangs, Hetrick literally never had an opportunity to shoot anybody with EOP without being blind.
Yeah,
And they just kind of overwhelmed and did a good job
poor
of
guy.
overwhelming all the players on site. So I thought that was a really, really cool round to watch. Another example of EG's utility usage being really, really good. Um, Not a round that we were expected to win. Actually, if we go to round 8, there's one interesting interesting thing to point out here as I skip ahead very quickly here. So what was interesting about this particular round, just very briefly, is they actually go for a really interesting play where they're going to go for this Halls pop with George and Hex. Hex is actually going to delay a little bit, and George is going to jump out of the apartments. But it's all based off of this contact from Walco. He's going to see what the part of the setup looks like. He doesn't see the player boosted up, but he does see a player porch. And the second that they get contact here, George immediately is jumping out. Now, granted, this is a misplay from Hampus. He's sitting on the bomb site over here. He just doesn't swing at all, um, which ends up kind of costing his team this round.
Yeah,
But
this
you can
round was
see
sick.
here,
I actually did get to watch this match.
yeah. And so in a second here, Walco's going to take a peek here. I believe it's Walco. Automatic lurking towards B, which is pretty standard for him, trying to see if he can catch a rotate, get information on what's happening on the B bomb site. Um, Here comes, yep, there it goes. Walco gets killed. Hex comes out. I'm sorry, Hex comes out and gets the kill.
Yeah,
George comes in late, gets a free kill there. Hampus not peeking. Um,
yeah.
and
Hampus
they're
was
just swinging into the bomb site. Now Hampus is overwhelmed, can't do anything. And now you're looking at a 3v2, automatic coming in with a long flank. And this is a round where essentially there's no chance. George
mhm.
gets a nice kill, round's over. So yeah, just another really cool idea. Look, I don't think it technically should have worked because I think Hampus should have gotten more kills there and probably should have closed out that round. But still a nice idea, and I
Yeah,
have an appreciation for that.
yeah.
Um,
I think realistically, Hampus gets the trade on George there, and
yeah,
then it's down to what, like a 2v2.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, most likely.
and I mean, it's a 2v2. Then Junior's alone, and Audie's on this really
Look,
long,
potentially at
long
that
flank
point,
from B.
yeah, and potentially at that point, right, automatic has been flanking, so maybe he goes
Right.
doubles back
So
and goes
maybe
B. So who,
it
who
does
knows what
like
happens? But
yeah,
you
it
know,
does work out. But I will say I did get to watch this match.
hmm
Uh, I was having pretty much an aneurysm the entire time. Uh,
yep.
my girlfriend's actually never watched me watch like a
Oh, I bet
CS
that's
match for
interesting.
EG,
Yeah. No, I'm not good when I
and
watch EG.
she was like, "Oh my god, you're just like my dad watching like football." I was like, "That this is my fucking Super Bowl, okay?"
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. It
But
is.
I was
Anytime EG
I
plays
was
is a Super Bowl.
anytime EG plays, but
Very
I was
valid.
having an aneurysm this entire game because there's so many chances we could have had where we closed
Yes.
it out. And
I'm actually
um,
going to talk about one of those. I'm sure you remember
yeah,
this one. Round 25, shall we? Round 25. This is a round that we should have won, and this would have closed out the game. But unfortunately, did not happen. Let's
yeah.
see.
And while you're finding it, I think Walco even said on his interview and on Twitter, right, that closing out games is
Yes.
going to be one of the primary issues for this team so far. And I don't remember the caster. I think it might have been Anders said that like when we were playing G2, right, that now once we hit 15, all the pressure is on us, right? Like it's like,
Yes.
oh fuck, like we're actually super close to actually winning this match, and it seems like that's sort of what's been happening.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right. So I found the round. Anyone who watched this game and saw the ebbs and flows is going to know that this was a backbreaker for EG. Definitely around they should have won and closed out the series or the map on in a really strong position, 14-10 on a force buy from NIP.
an ugly force by
Yeah,
that.
not a great one. They have some utility, but not a whole lot going on. Um, Let's see, NIP put a little bit of pressure banana, a little bit of pressure in mid. They're going to throw some grenades over towards the A bomb site. EG currently has a 3-man setup here, and Junior is going
I think Junior
to. Does
gets
he get one of these? I
one.
believe.
Yeah, he gets one because I'm pretty sure
Yeah, he
Config
gets this
again
one.
just walks
So he
in.
backs
Yeah,
off. This is already looking fantastic. Um, he's going to rotate over, make sure there's nobody going arch.
yeah. I mean, and at this point, you're like, okay, yeah,
This is
round
looking
should
solid
be
so far.
essentially done. I mean, they really have what, like two flashes, two smokes, and
Yeah, I
like a
guess it would
molly
just
on
come
hand
down
this
to
way.
how good their execute is. Junior's going to miss a couple of crucial shots here where
Yeah,
he could have closed
the,
out this round. He hits one, doesn't get this follow up, unfortunately,
yeah.
and has to back off. And this is where the side execute happens, and this is where stuff goes wrong. Great kill from automatic, over swings a little bit, and X loses his fight with the guy coming out of apps, and suddenly you're looking at a 3v2. This is still favorable for EG, but definitely maybe automatic peaking a little bit too wide. I understand why he's doing it, but at the same time, those two players going down puts the round into question a little bit. And here's what's about to happen. I'm gonna pause this real quick. So who is this? Either George or Walco. It might be George. I don't. Who has a smoke? George. So I believe George is going to throw the smoke. It's going to land in the pit. It's going to make Rez have to peek away from the big pit and peek
Yeah.
towards apps, which is where Junior is with the op. The idea obviously being flush him out of the back pit position, get a kill on Rez. Now there's only one left in the bomb site. Swarm him, get the round easy. But what's going to happen is Junior's not going to get this kill, and no trade happens, I believe, onto Walco, and suddenly it's just like, all right, well, might as well just
Yeah.
save the guns and leave. So, yep, here's George lining up the smoke. He's going to jump throw this one all the way into the back of pit. Rez peeks out wide. Junior's not holding the angle,
So at this point, the
and
timing's like all off.
it's
You
not
know, like
great.
yeah,
The flash is great, but nobody peeks out, and then Junior goes
and
and
then Junior
saves.
goes
So,
saves.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
just an unfortunate round where they really should have won this round, and because they don't, NIP starts making their comeback. If that round doesn't go in NIP's favor, I think EG just wins.
Yeah.
So I think that was probably the backbreaker round of the game. I remember watching it and thinking, man, that's going to be the round, isn't it? And then they
Mhm.
got into OT, things were looking good, and yes, they probably should have closed out in the first OT. It didn't happen, but I think overall that round 25 was probably the backbreaker that put them into the position they were in.
I
So
agree. I
um,
think I think I will say there was. I don't know what round it was specifically. But I mean, Junior is the for CT side. He is the opper towards Arch side and Arches. They did something really cool where it worked out great. Where NIP was trying to exploit the fact that Junior is there and overwhelm him, but they actually
oh, they put
swapped with
George there. Yes.
George there on Arch, and George like sprayed down for like
Yep.
I don't know, like three or something. I thought that round was really really cool.
Yep.
That if it weren't for the casters or people that watch a lot, wouldn't have like really noticed that that was like a change that was consciously made to put George in that position. Um,
Yep. Yeah, they
I will.
gave.
I mean, I will say like Inferno, we should have won.
Yeah, I think so. I think we honestly.
Vertigo was.
I think Vertigo
and we'll get
we
to
quote
it.
unquote deserve to lose, but I think we lose. I think the main reason things start to derail on this map is straight up due to just kind
I
of the tilt off of
Yeah,
Head Trick doing what he does in the
right.
obvious round that I'm going to bring up, which is round number 8, where
Hmm.
it just kind of man, this is a round they never should lose. And again, it's the same message here, right? Good things coming from EG, great utility usage, sometimes really good teamwork, but sometimes something always falls apart and they end up losing rounds that they should win. Um,
Right.
and that's kind
And
of what cost them.
I think another thing to highlight the whole event for the most part on maps that we had a really good chance of winning would be that it wasn't really that the other team beat us. It was more like we beat ourselves in a lot of the games, especially I think in the G2 Mirage map. I
Yeah,
think
I would say the maps that we got, I think the maps that where we got beat and it was like, yeah, the other team was just better were
right, like
the Vitality series in
Vitality
total,
game.
the G2 game on Inferno,
Yeah, the G2 Inferno
and
game.
potentially this Vertigo game
This
on
Vertigo
Bali.
game could go back and forth on
Yeah,
whether it was we
I
lost.
think I think
What
this
was it?
one.
We lost or did they beat us? You know?
Yeah. So here is the the tragic round, the tragic round that is Vertigo round number 8. So yeah, this is a tough one. Things are go pretty damn well. I actually was about to show another round that EG has on the CT side where they do a really cool setup where they have a bunch of people boosted up and stuff behind the smokes on A to stop
Mhm.
the end of the NIP round. But
I mean, that's great. I mean,
yeah, it's
Automatic
a good
got one that
entry.
he guessed on, and then got a good flash into yellow and got the second.
Yeah, I will say a story of this map was I think after this round, you don't see as many cool ideas from EG. You don't see them going for cool little aggressive plays
It's almost like
anymore.
they
And
simmered down a little bit, you
yeah, I
know.
think so. Automatic kind of gets caught out here, but overall, George does a good job keeping them cool, keeping them calm. And yeah, you're looking at this point at a 4v2 with 3 players over here, and it's looking pretty good for EG, all things considered.
Yeah, I mean, you got Junior there with almost full nades. Georgia's hucked a smokes or a flash somewhere to clear out B. They know these two players are more than likely coming A. Now they definitely know these two players are coming A.
Yeah, George is about to rotate over.
And I
Um,
mean, it's cut and dry. I mean, all they have, if you're NIP, is head trick with an op
yeah,
and a
Junior
flash.
gets this kill, and this is where things fall apart. Hedrick's able to get out of the sandbags, which is already the first problem. But now the next problem is everyone's so worried about the left side that nobody's watching ramp, and they all
Yeah,
peek one on one, and it just falls apart. Everyone was so worried about him going back over to the side
sidewalk
hall,
that nobody watched ramp.
and that
Yeah,
nobody ended up watching the ramp, or even trying to like double swing or do anything like that. So it's just that's a shitty way to lose a round, and you could tell it kind of put EG off their rocker and put them in a pretty
yeah,
bad position, frankly. And because they were dominating this game. It was looking really good. It was 6-1 at the time, 6-1 at the time, and EG was looking really strong. So
yeah.
to
And then
lose
what?
this round,
NIP like they won out after this, right? On the T side, like
I
NIP, I
believe
think.
so. Yeah, I believe so. So just
And like this one round
damn.
flipped a 6-1 start to a 9-6 half, right?
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
was it was pretty brutal. And then to follow up, here's this is I just wanted to showcase this round. This was a round where you could tell maybe a little bit of overthinking things and you know, uh overthinking things, and also just again, sometimes utility usage and chemistry not being on point, and team flashes, costing EG to some extent. I can't remember if they actually still win this round. Yeah, they still win this round, but they make it a little bit more difficult than it needs to be. So it's round number 20. Um, let's see if I can move farther ahead here. I think this is literally the round.
yeah,
Yes, it is. Okay. So obviously we've already missed a kill on Brolin, but it's not a big deal. It's not my main point for this round. Um, the main point being, EG does some pretty good stuff here, but they actually just overthink this a little bit too much, and are too busy throwing utility and throwing flashbangs, and it messes up their timing. And then as they're pushing to the bomb site, they're team flashing each other, and it starts to get worrying that maybe NIP is gonna rotate back in time and end up winning this round. So immediately after the automatic, after automatic gets killed, you see George throwing a flashbang here and start entering the site. He's getting blind, more team flashes, some utility coming in. All of a sudden, there's two players from NIP that have made it back to B, and they're
Mm-hmm.
pushing into the bomb site. The only reason they win this is because Walco is so far pushed up, but just a little bit of overcooking things to some extent,
Right.
and just kind of costing them some crucial timing that could have put them in a really bad spot.
Right,
So
and a lot of those kills are like, I mean, like you said, if Walko's not pushed up there, I mean,
the
he
round
doesn't
might
get the
fall apart.
trade on that Jenny player, and the round could easily fall apart. Right.
Yeah. So
I mean, obviously, it's really good things before they actually took the site. Um,
yeah, the decision making to hit the B bomb site right when automatic dies is spot on.
right. No,
It's
the
just
timing for
some
that
poor
was great. I think
execution.
the flashes was just timing up wise was really rough, and I will say in the EG vlog, the one thing Axe said, or I don't know if it was in the vlog or just in the video, but um, he was like, "Yeah, like don't even ask, like, oh, I can, just like fucking throw the flash, and the player whoever's up just has to like react to it,
Yes, it's
basically.
better to be decisive than in the middle.
Then just be like, oh, I can, because you know how long it really takes to just say like, hey, Ricky, I can flash you, like I can flash your half wall. You know, that's like 3 seconds. It's like, oh yeah, you want it? Okay, yeah, I'll throw it, and then at that point you got
Yes,
peeked, you're dead, right?
it's better
So it
to
is
just
better
say,
just
"Hey,
to
I'm
throw it.
flashing," and then
It's
that
like,
guy's
oh,
got
flashing you,
got a turn. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like
right.
you just kind of have to play like that.
And I
Um,
think once they get that down,
yes.
they're gonna be fine. But obviously, we saw a lot of good things on Vertigo. It's just
Yeah, they actually did make a slight comeback. They brought it back to that 10-10 score line, and then it kind of fell apart, and they ended up losing the rest of the map. But I think there were some good things there, and I think if they had just done a better job closing out that CT half the way that they should have, I think, yeah, you're looking at probably potentially a map win. Not 100% guaranteed by any means, but I do think
mhm,
they would have put themselves in a really strong position to win that map. Headtrick had an amazing series, one of his best, 61 and 35, plus 26 with a 1.46 rating. He was
that's
monstrous on
insane.
their series. So,
I had
and
him on my fantasy team, so
yeah, and I do think one of the crucial reasons, just to get back into why I don't think NIP is that good, but one reason why they probably did end up beating Vitality is that Brolin had a comeback series where he hasn't been performing well recently, but he had a really, really good series and ended up being the extra piece they needed. So I'll just briefly mention that. But overall, I was, I left
it was
NIP.
after watching them play Vitality. This was like a good breath of fresh air.
Yeah,
It was a loss, but it
it
was like
hurt, but it was
okay.
still a good.
I was like,
It was
okay,
it was a good
we
hurt.
found some shit that we were trying things.
Yeah,
Like we were doing some really good shit. It's
yeah,
just putting it all together and winning a series with that.
yeah,
But
definitely.
yeah, it was a good breath of fresh air after watching us get ground pounded by fucking Vitality.
Yes,
But so it was. I wouldn't classify it as a good loss because I think even the team knows that
it could
Inferno
have
they
been
should have
winnable.
probably closed it out. And
Yeah, it was very winnable.
even if we lose Vertigo based on what we saw them do on Nuke, right? Like they have a good chance to win the series, and like their
Yes.
whole tournament run is kind of flipped on its head, right? So
Yep.
I'll I'll say that it was a good loss in the sense that they can take the things that they didn't do well and fix them. Right? It wasn't like the Vitality loss where it was just what do you take away from that loss? Well, you take away the entire fucking series, right?
Yeah.
Or or in this, it's like, oh well, in this round, we were so worried about sidewalk instead of just listening for sound cues of the op scope and not looking at ramp and not trading properly, right? So it was a good loss in that sense.
Yeah. And I won't lie, immediately when they lose this series, I'm thinking in my mind, oh my goodness, who do we have to play in the
Yeah,
gauntlet? And
dude,
then they
I
said,
saw Loser Phase versus G2, and I was like,
I realized that it was the group C, I believe it was. Was it C?
yeah,
And I
it was
was
Group
like,
C.
well, damn, like that's either gonna be. I think at the time when I first realized it was that, I think Liquid was still in contention for being in that
Yeah, it was
group, and
like
I was
Liquid
like,
versus Phase and like
Liquid,
G2
FaZe, or
versus
G2. Like Liquid at the time had looked really, really good.
they
FaZe
did.
and G2, and I was just like, well, I mean, that's just great. You know what I mean? Like
I
we
was
got to
like,
play
that's a wash.
potentially two of the top five teams in the world,
Teams,
and
yeah,
Team Liquid, a team that has been changed but looks really good at the time. They
yeah,
dropped off since, but they looked good at the time.
yeah.
And yeah, I wasn't feeling too happy about that.
I was not. I was honestly more happy to see G2 than FaZe.
Yeah, I
I
think
I
I was
will
more happier to
say
see G2 in the sense that I think G2 in Blast looked significantly
they
worse for
looked
some reason,
for
but
for the names on that team and what we know they can do.
the fact that the roster had stayed the same,
They
they looked
they
worse.
looked dog shit.
Yeah, they didn't look
I'm
very
just
good.
gonna be flat out. They looked bad in
Yeah,
comparison to like what we know they've looked like in the past.
yeah,
They did not look good. So when I saw that we were playing G2, I was like, okay. And like, there's always those small things, right? If we would have played FaZe, it's like, well, they just lost Robin, and
yeah.
we'll
And
see
FaZe
how
is
that.
another
And
team that seems to
they
just for
hadn't
some reason
looked,
always have close games no matter what.
yeah, and they
But they did
hadn't,
actually look a lot better at this event.
right.
So
But seeing how G2 had been playing in the past, I was like, well, there is a chance
yeah,
of us at least performing well like we did against NIP. I didn't expect us to win this, but no, I think
we very nearly did,
we
unfortunately.
very nearly did.
Yeah.
I mean, Inferno.
Yeah, so
Uh,
why don't I break down
yeah, yeah.
the veto a
Over.
little bit? So veto EG remove Anubis seems again to be their permaban. G2 remove Overpass. EG pick Inferno, which I think was surprising, considering G2 is a good Inferno team. And yes, EG has shown promise on that map, and I'm sure they were feeling confident that they fixed their mistakes from the NIP game and that they were going to be
Mhm.
good. But again, still a decent map, a pretty good map for G2, so a little bit shocking. G2 picks a nuke. That's a map they're really good at, historically. EG remove Ancient. G2 remove Vertigo, and Mirage was left over. So overall, not a super surprising veto. Maybe the Inferno is a little bit shocking, but other than that, maybe they just
Maybe
would
even
rather play
the
Inferno than some of the other
yeah,
maps. Who knows?
and maybe
But
even the nuke a little bit to the extent of we hadn't really seen this iteration play nuke like at all.
yeah, but it's G2's pick, so
Right.
it's it's whatever. Maybe I assume G2 probably remove Vertigo. Maybe it's just not a map they like to play.
Yeah.
Um, well, actually, if I recall correctly, they had that one time where they played Vertigo, and was it the major where things really went wrong?
Yeah, I think they've
So
played it like once, and
maybe
they were
that's
just like, nope,
the
we're
reason.
never playing Vertigo again.
So even though EG was bad on it, maybe G2 just didn't want to take that risk.
I think the one last time G2 did play Vertigo was against Fnatic when they bombed out.
Yes, yeah. So yeah, as you can already see from just looking clearly at the scoreboard, Nico went 89 and 44 in 3 maps. He averaged
Oh man,
31
he
kills per game. He was
he was going crazy.
incredible. It was incredible to watch. And as a Nico fan, as a fan of his aim, it was beautiful. But as an EG fan, it was painful. So it
Yeah,
was tugging at both of my heartstrings.
I mean, even
Um,
as an EG fan, it was just
it was
sick to see
incredible to watch. Yeah,
Nico
it
and
was incredible to
it,
watch. Like I can't even.
like it's one of those things where like you're watching the other team and it's not even man we're doing things wrong. It's just holy fuck, this guy's just he's just going off, right? It's
Yeah,
like when
it's like
Zywoo gets into Zywoo mode and Nico did Nico things and it's like it's almost whatever we tried. Sometimes it was just like, well, we
yeah,
ran into Nico and he like one tapped three of us. So what are we
yeah, it
gonna
just
do?
reminds you of like if anyone's an NBA fan, if like when um when Devin Booker played the Celtics at TD Garden
Yeah,
and dropped like 70 points, and all the people in there are just cheering for him to score 70 because it's just such an incredible performance.
yeah,
You don't even care at this point.
yeah. You don't even care
Um,
it's against your team. You're just like, holy fuck, this is insane.
yeah. So to start off with, Inferno, Inferno. Um, Yeah, I have nothing to say about Inferno.
No, negative.
Inferno was not just bad; it was horrendously bad. The score line does not show just how bad this game was.
I mean, what
The
G2
only
started on like
reason,
a 10-0 run or some
yes,
shit on us.
and Hex, buddy, I'm gonna call you out on this one because this one did not age well. End of round one, Hex yells over to G2 after G2 wins the pistol. That's all you get. Ended up being a 10-0 scoreline. Like you can't you just can't write that. I mean, that's just unbelievable. So
That's
I
just
had to
kind of
point that
funny.
out because I thought it was
Yeah,
hilarious, but at the same time, I was like, "Motherfucker, are you kidding me?" Like, You gotta pick something else, Hext. Pick something else. Anyways, just poking fun. No, look, the only reason why EG even picked up 4 rounds on their T side was because G2 deliberately started disrespecting them. They started peeking mid and just taking aggressive fights without really too much coordination involved, and they ended up, EG correctly punished them for those mistakes, but it wasn't anything spectacular that EG was doing. It was just G2 just throwing the game, essentially, just running it down with no respect. You can tell, I'm not going to point these rounds out, I'm not going to show them on here, but if you want to see what I'm talking about, and that you can very clearly see in the early gun rounds of the game, you see G2 playing heavy setups. Some people boosted up and up towards Porch, while somebody else is playing anti-flash or whatever, with another player towards Arch, and just having a really nice crossfire setup, playing very disciplined. And EG was basically just getting funneled into that kind of setup. And then you look at that kind of setup towards the end of the game, and that is not happening at all. G2 is just running it down, peeking alt mid, peeking main mid, like there's peeking everything. So this was not by any means these 7 rounds EG got. To me, weren't too impressive. The CT side looked, I don't know, okay. I will say one thing I'll point out that this happened on the Vitality Overpass game. At least this team can string together some CT rounds, because my God, the last team couldn't do it. I could not watch the last team CT side. It was, they just couldn't win multiple CT rounds in a row to string together any kind of economy. So I was glad to see that they can at least do that even when things are going wrong. But again, this game was pretty much a no-show. It made me very, very nervous, because if this series had been a 2-0 get out of my face, G2 dominates, I think I would have left this event feeling disappointed, because I would have been like, you played 2 really good teams, granted, but you got destroyed. It wasn't even close. And then yes, you played close against NIP, but I don't even think NIP is that good. So I would have been left a little bit disappointed. So I was hoping to see a little bit more competitiveness in the future maps, which I got that and even more. So,
Yeah.
but just at least for this Inferno game, I would say they got outclassed, and this was very, very similar to the Vitality game,
Hmm.
where they just kind of, yeah, there was no hope.
Yeah. But going into Nuke,
Nuke was much better. Nuke was
Nuke
much
was
better.
a shitload better. I dude,
Yes.
imagine being fucking Nico,
Oh, I
going
know.
like 35-15 or whatever the fuck he went,
Yes. And this is
and
great
like
because,
losing the fucking like map.
oh yeah, and G2 is a good nuke team. They're a really good nuke team, and the
Oh yeah.
main catalyst for that is Nico. Nico is an
Yes.
incredible outside player. He always is finding openings. I don't know how he does it with the
I
rifle,
mean, yeah,
but it's
it's
just
insane. Yeah.
unbelievable. And he was finding that impact, and for some reason G2 just couldn't win. And it's crazy because it should have been even more in EG's favor than 16-13. That's
Hmm.
how well they were playing. They kind of let it slip towards the end, and people were starting to get nervous. Is this going to be another EG gets right to the finish line but can't close? And Yeah, just crazy. I'll say for EG, I think the CT side was great. I was very worried at, like, I think it was 4-1 in favor of
Yeah.
G2, and I was starting to get really anxious because T side rounds are really big on Nuke, and getting 4 as quickly as they did, it made me very anxious for the rest of the map. But
Right.
EG went on a string of rounds. They looked really, really good. The T side started. They got a great start on their T side, which gave them a little bit of a buffer to kind of
Hmm.
make those mistakes that they ended up making. Um, what I want to say before, the only round that I have mentioned for Nuke is round 26, but I go very in depth on it, because I think it's a round that EG ultimately should have closed this game on, but they didn't. Um, but what I want to say before we get to that stuff is the good stuff, which is obviously EGCT side on Nuke looked really good. Junior was really, really good getting picks and whatnot. I was really impressed with everything that was going on the CT side. The T side started well, as well. Um, and overall, I was very happy with their Nuke. So let me just pull this one up. If you want to talk about your thoughts on Nuke, go ahead while
Uh,
I pull this up.
Again, I've only seen a lot of the highlights from Nuke. I didn't get a
Gotcha.
chance to watch too much of it,
Sure.
but I will speak on behalf of like G2 and Nico, right? Like we talked about him being an outside player. I mean, you know how rare it is to have a rifler be your yard player at that
Yes.
level.
And be
I
so good at
mean,
it.
I mean, the only ones that come to mind are Nico and I
Yeah.
think Electronic. right?
Yeah, maybe
Those
electronic
are the
equipment. Yeah.
only two that I know of that are like really good staples of yard players that are riflers. And I mean, Nico is just so fucking good outside. Um, but I would say I did get nervous. I mean, to get 5 rounds within like the first 6 or 7 on the T side, if you're G2, is like massive. I mean, if you're at the tier 1 level and you're playing Nuke and you're a T side, you're really only realistically looking for like 5 to 5 rounds, right? And that's what they got. So I'd almost be extremely nervous going into that if I was EG going into their T side. But I think EG getting the pistol, converting the pistol, and even getting the gun round after that was like massive. I mean, that broke a lot of G2's economy. I mean, that set us up like 13-5 or whatever it might have been.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think the best score line that we got was like 14-6 or something like that, right?
Hmm.
And obviously, Nuke CT, it's really easy. It's a lot easier to string together rounds just because how hard T side it can be. But um, but no, I mean, it was a really good map, and I'm glad we were able to actually close one out against one of the better Nuke teams at a
Yep.
tier 1 level. Because really, if you think about it, a lot of tier 1 teams do not touch Nuke for the most part.
Yeah, I mean,
I
the
mean,
teams that are really good at it, your G2s, Navi in the past with previous
Navi in the
lineups,
past,
Heroic, these are teams that are just some of the best teams in the world. If you have a
right?
world class nuke, that's a really good sign. Not saying EG has that right now because I think I'd like to see more from their T side. They struggled on it quite a
Mm-hmm.
bit, and so I'm not convinced on that yet. And I would also want to see a little bit, obviously, more than one game of a good CT side, right? Um,
Right.
but I think if you can develop a very strong nuke, it's a great sign for your team in terms of where you're at as a
Absolutely.
team. So yeah, and so here's round 26. I've got it pulled up here. So what you're going to see here is you're going to see the setup is going to have outside smokes, and they're gonna send 3 players over there. Junior being a part of that pack. Hext is going to be lurking by ramp, outside ramp, while Walco is going to be on T roof. Now, looking at this round, I think what the idea is to send players towards the towards secret, and potentially you're going to have Walco and Hex is listening for information by ramp. Walco is on T roof, ready to throw support nades wherever that may be necessary. I think the idea here is to potentially cause some rotates for to get some kills, baiting the CTs into rotating certain ways, and potentially going back toward A. If that doesn't happen, they can still go B. I think that's kind of the logic behind this round. I might be wrong, but as
Mm-hmm.
you'll see as this round plays out, I think that's kind of what they were going for. So you're going to see Hex come over here. He's going to blast open the door with the nade. You get the outside smokes here, good flashes to get Monzi off the angle. They're actually going to do quite a bit of damage. Nico, because he's just a god, is just going to do a shit ton of damage over towards outside. It's just what he does. And you're about to see, some more rotates coming in. I think Nico might get even more spam here. Honestly, maybe. I guess not. So here's what's about to happen. These smokes are fading, and it's literally right about to happen. Nico's going to re-peek this angle, and Junior misses this kill. Not round ending, but if he does get this kill, I think this is what potentially starts that chain reaction that EG might be looking for, and
Mm-hmm.
Walco might decide, hey, maybe we decide to kind of lean towards A, depending on how G2 looks like they're reacting. So he misses this kill. Um, actually, I guess he doesn't peek just yet. He's about to, though. Yeah, so misses that kill, which is pretty unfortunate, right? Um, so what's going to happen here next is um, they're looking like they're going to double back to A, but Nico is going to reposition really, really, really hard here. And again, this is one of those where if Junior gets that kill, this probably doesn't happen, and maybe the A hit works out really well. But Nico realizing, okay, they're down secret, um, he's just going to play this crazy, way off in CT spawn position that's going to catch a bunch of players off guard, or just EG in general off guard. There's no way they're checking this angle. I'm sure Hext is hearing some of these rotates over towards the ramp. And so that's probably why this A call gets made. So you can see here, they're still down secret, but they're not exactly like pushing toward the B bomb site. Um, And so they're working their way back up. They're moving over here. Here comes Nico. He's going to reposition. The timing not in EG's favor. He's going to reposition all the way over to this red box, and it's just the perfect position for if somebody's walking outside going towards Mini
Yep.
here. Just going to catch automatic completely off guard. Really nothing he can do about this fight. And so immediately when that kill happens, though, there's a great reaction from Walco. He says, "Fuck the A hit." They know that that was now what we were planning on doing. We're going to hit B. So what you're about to see, you can see here Hexed has worked his way over to the ramp. He's worked his way all the way over to the ramp position, and these players are moving down secret. And what you're going to notice is, I believe, it might be Hooksy. I can't remember who. Whoever's in this B bomb site, basically, they just have no idea that Hex could be in this position. It's
Mhm.
going to cause a free kill. And so, yeah, it's going to be some good trades. They're going to get into a 4v3. And unfortunately, though, there's going to be a couple things that go wrong. Walco is going to end up missing a kill over towards the squeaky door, which we'll see in a second. So, yep, not expecting Hex at all to be there. It's JKS. Munzie's going to miss this shot and put EG in a really strong position. Hex is going to trade kill. Now I'm going to pause again because there's a lot happening here.
Yep.
So Nico has now come back from outside. He's going to go back toward the ramp. Hex is not going to expect this at all. He's going to die. As for what happens immediately, which I believe that happens off screen, so you won't see
Mhm.
that actually happen. It'll be on the minimap. Walco is going to be looking for this. He's going to be looking for a kill on a rotator going from A to either secret or going down the vent. He's going to miss this kill, which is a pretty crucial kill to miss. And so you'll see that right here. There's the Nico kill. There's the miss kill onto I don't remember who that was. Maybe Hunter, I think. Yeah,
I think it
Hunter.
was Hunter. Yeah.
And now Hooksy has pushed through the ramp and is basically just waiting for him. So Walker not expecting that at all, going to get killed here. And so now you're looking at a 2v3 that was originally a 4v3 with EG looking like they were in some pretty good positions.
Double
And
op
so
setup on the post play.
yeah, and they've got a weird setup. Junior's actually going to decide he doesn't feel comfortable where he's at. He's going to end up going toward double doors with George and kind of double up here. I don't know if this is the right decision or not, but
Mm-hmm.
it's whatever. I don't think it matters a whole lot. What really matters is he's going to miss this kill, another missed shot onto I don't know who that is, Hooksy or Hunter, and eventually just the round just falls apart from here. There's just no way for them to win. The bomb plant's not in a good position for Junior, and there's just nothing he can do. So a round where again a lot of things go right, and yes, unfortunately this is a round where I have to bring up sometimes Junior just does miss easy shots. It does happen still.
Mm-hmm.
He has been playing really well. He has been the best player for EG this event, in the event, but some missed shots there that kind of cost them. I mean, it doesn't entirely cost them the map. They end up winning, obviously, but this is a round that I think very well could have gone in EG's hands. Definitely could have closed it out here at 16-10 and been moving on to the last map. But a couple missed shots, a couple misplays, and just yeah, things end up falling apart. But I think the reaction from Walco and the idea overall is really, really good, and I think the execution for the most part was pretty good.
Yep.
Just a couple things not going their way, just missing shots that they needed to hit, essentially. And so yeah, that was the only round I had for Nuke, just because there was a lot that you could have picked out. I
Mm-hmm.
debated picking out some really good CT side stuff, but I think in terms of what caused this map to be closer than it needed to be, I think this is the killer. Um,
Right.
so
I agree. And like, let's not downplay. I think Junior had like a really sick 1v2 or
yes,
1v3
yes, he did.
clutch
He
on
had a
CT
really good
side,
clutch.
and
Yes, yes. I'm
and
not
I
trying to flame Junior by showing this clip.
right, right.
This is just
No, yeah, no.
damn.
It's
You know
just
what I mean? It's
it's
just
just one of
not
those
being
rounds where
close.
where
So
you can break down a lot of things that
yeah,
could have gone right and could have gone wrong. Obviously, we can't break down every round that we win because obviously we did something right.
right.
But
Yeah,
this is a good example of like everything we did was correct and like really nice up until this point. And um, and if the point is that we just missed a few shots, I can kind of live with that to a degree. Um, Now, if it's like a consistent thing, like if we're getting like Furia Junior and we're just missing everything, then that's different. But that's obviously not what we've gotten in this event from Junior at all. And if Walco misses a spray every now and then, that's fine. But I think this nuke was just a good map overall to show, hey, we can take a map off of it. I think everybody expected us to come in here and just go 0-6 and leave with our like tails between our legs, but we got a map off G2. We took NIP to like double overtime. We took G2 to overtime on Mirage. right? Like this team is looking good. Now
Yep.
Mirage, on the other hand,
I think this is a map they should have won for
we should
sure.
have won
This
Mirage
this
for
should have been.
sure.
I
There's
think
two
EG
instances
Hooksy
that I
freaking listen. I understand EG is not a good team. I understand they're the laughing joke of CS:GO, and they've been that way for the past couple of years. I understand all these things. I understand that nobody wants to admit that they played worse than EG. However,
but
Hooksy
they
was
played
completely
G. Yeah,
bullshitting when he said that. No, I don't think EG was playing that well. I think we were just playing really bad. No, motherfucker, you got outcalled and outplayed in two of these
yeah.
maps. Like Nuke, you got beat fair and square, and Mirage, you should have been beat fair and square. But unfortunately, EG, the classic, just can't seem to close out rounds where they're in good positions. And it happened on CT side and T side.
Yeah.
Look,
Now, don't get me
CT side,
wrong.
man.
Don't get me wrong.
Just
Like G2 obviously did not play fucking well,
no, no, they didn't.
but
No, they
don't
didn't.
come out and say like, oh, like no, like this really wasn't that. They didn't play all that good though. Like we just played really bad. Yeah, you played bad, but like don't diminish what like because there's a good probably 5 to 7 rounds where EG just had their number, just had the
Oh
right
yeah.
read, had the right call on the round, and
Hmm.
like I mean you can't diminish that, right? And I
Yeah.
think 2 rounds come to mind where we should have fucking won.
Hmm.
Jaden
So many.
missed a fucking kill on Hunter and Khan on like 15-10 or whenever it
Yes.
was.
So that was yes, that was round let me think.
I can't remember, but
So yeah, there's a couple. There's around round 15. Hext has an incredible hold towards the B bomb site. 2v4.
yeah,
We lose that round. Monazi gets a crazy kill in mid, and they end up just losing the round. There's so many rounds that you could look at with EG just
yeah.
losing
I
rounds they should
mean,
win.
there were
Um,
some just talk about closing out. I mean, I think there was one round where if Junior would have gotten a kill on one, like we would have closed out the map and not gone to overtime. I
yeah,
mean,
that was the last round, I believe, where yeah,
oh
he
my
was he
god, it
was
was like a
sitting.
two v
It
two,
was a two v
and
two. He was
Junior was
sitting at the
sitting
bench.
bench
Yep.
looking at Cat, and he just
Yeah.
preemptively fired on a shoulder peek,
Yeah.
and then got peace, and I was like, oh no,
Yeah. I think
and like
to kind of touch
two
on
rounds,
that,
yeah,
like, so what I'm gonna do real quick, I'm gonna say something to Junior's benefit during that round, and I'm gonna
yeah,
say in that particular play, and I'm gonna say something to Junior's not benefit for that particular play. The benefit being you're playing Nico, who is the king of shoulder peaks. He's basically Ethan, the equivalent of Ethan in Valorant. The dude's shoulder peaks are just unbelievable. Like you
yeah,
don't even. It's like just enough to where you want to shoot, but not enough to actually hit the shot. And he does it consistently every time. That's why Nico is so good. He does it on every angle and off angle. He is just that incredible at baiting out shots. That's a fight where the Opper is always expected to win, but because Nico's shoulder peaking is so good, that's a lack of experience. That's just Junior making the mistake. Now, what I think Junior messed up on is even though he missed the shot, I think he still could have gotten away with it.
yeah.
But he kind of overstays. It looks like he's either about to re-peak or he doesn't fully
Peak.
get behind the bench,
Mm-hmm.
and so he ends up dying. I think he actually could have gotten away with it if he had just shot and left as quickly as he missed. Maybe not being 100% sure where the other player was coming from. I'm not sure, but
Right.
he definitely, at the very least, could have hid under the bench or hid behind the bench,
Try to just play his
and just
life at
tried
that
to
point,
to do something differently there. But yeah, that was a round that kind of went wrong. There were more reasons why that round ended up falling apart the way it did, but
Yeah.
yes,
I
that
mean, what I
was a
forgot
round
what
that.
round it was that I mentioned earlier, right? Like
Yep.
Hex had an insane lurk towards A, and if he would have just waited for Hunter to like rotate back to A, like he probably would have killed him. But he went to like he had a deeper position, which is fine. But then he just completely like whiffs on Hunter playing Con,
Hmm.
and then it left I think Junior in like a 1v2.
Yep.
And I was just like, oh no! I was like, man, that also would have closed the round out,
A
which
CT round that I can think of off the top of my head. Can't think of the exact round number. But there was a round where we had a really great CT side hold. But there was a player in connector. I think this was the round that Nico got. Actually, I think might have been the Nico clutch round, maybe.
mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that was a different round. But it was we had a really good A hold, and then I think Nico was coming up from Con. Somebody else was coming over from Tetris, who jumped onto stairs and killed. Basically, they killed two players that were stairs
Oh
and right
yeah,
outside jungle because they were both tunnel vision on the connector player, and then the round kind of fell apart. But that was a 4v2 that they could have won. Um, maybe there's blame there towards potentially George for being CT and not having that information or being I don't know. There's so many
Right.
things that could be used. But basically,
But
my
on the
point being,
positive side, dude, Walco had some really good fucking T side calls, man.
yes, he did. Yeah, he
Like
had some great T side calls.
like oh my god. And then Hooksy's just gonna be like, it's whatever. We just played bad. No,
Yeah,
dude,
and we're
fucking
pointing out all the near misses, but they had a lot of very very good rounds. I mean, you just look at
we
the
did.
CT side and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 to 4. They had an 8-4 at one point, and they ended up losing 3 rounds straight. To
Yeah, I
make it
mean
an
CT
8-7
side,
map
not a
or
single
anything.
person went negative. I
Yeah, so
mean, that's
that's really unfortunate to not get more rounds there. The T side starts really well. You get the pistol, you get the second round. Sure, you lose two, but then you win four straight. Things are looking great. And actually, I do want to talk about some of these rounds. So the rounds I'm going to talk about first, I think you pointed this round out to me. So I wanted to cover it. I might have been wrong. This may not have been the round that you were thinking
mhm.
of, but I'm gonna try to pull it up here. It's round number 11. Um, and this is a play on CT side where they have two go towards B apps right at the
Yep.
start of the round,
Yeah,
and
it should
they
be
are in a
George and
really good
Hex, and
position, and they just fluff the kills. The trade's not
yeah,
there, and
yeah.
it
So
just
so
kind of
while you're
happens.
fine, I'll
So
give some pretense. So
yeah,
so George and Hex had been pretty much killing it pretty well on the B site, and they go for a bit of an aggro play where I think it might be Walco, but they quick boost Hex and George up in the app so they can clear it quickly. And basically, what you guys will see is that I don't know what caused the hesitation on the swing, but George, it's almost like in George's head, he wanted to jiggle the angle for info, and then it looked like Hex kind of wanted George to swing wide, was what was in his head. But G2, I I don't know if maybe they got a sound cue or something of the sorts, uh, but they were just like waiting for those two players. And I think, granted, if this would have been executed properly, we probably get at least two off trades alone.
yeah. So I've got it pulled up here. So this is round 11. Um, you're gonna see the immediate double towards the apps position. They get very very deep, and I think what happens here, honestly, yes, they're waiting.
I don't think they
I
know
don't
though.
think they know. I think this is. I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe they do know, but this to me just looks like maybe they're setting up outside B. They're gonna throw some to get
Right.
ready for some utility or something along those lines. Let's. But you're basically gonna see here. George is gonna swing. They look kind of ready for it. Maybe they did know. Um, but look, George swings. He doesn't. Maybe he doesn't. There's a couple things,
I
right?
don't think he was just
Obviously,
anticipating like two
I think
guys
he
to be
was
sitting in
his.
that like alley.
Yeah, I mean his crosshair position looked like he was ready for a player to be in that area, but he doesn't swing
It's
wide
almost like
enough.
he was just yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't swing wide enough for Hex to be able to swing with him. Even after George dies, Hex doesn't immediately swing afterwards. I think he doesn't because he's probably thinking in his head they won't expect there to be two. Unfortunately for him,
Right.
they were expecting two because how many times are you going to see one player just wide swing apps that early into a round? That's probably
Well,
what
the
they're
thing
thinking.
was like
So,
because George did not swing wide enough, Hex tried to swing with him, preemptively shot. So at that point, they
oh,
did
okay.
know that Hex
Yeah,
was in there.
yeah. So
Um,
it's just one of those where the coordination just isn't really
it wasn't
there.
there completely.
And it kind of cost them. But I think it was a good idea. I just think
Yeah,
that
I
unfortunately
wanted to
it
point
kind of
this
gets
around
blown.
out when I texted you about it was like, yes, it obviously doesn't work out at all, but it's the fact that they tried something like this in general.
Yeah, I think it was a good enough
Uh,
try. Hooksy just gets a bunch of entries here.
yeah, Hooks actually did something for once. Um, I will actually shout out Hooks. He had a sick like op hold on his CT side when they decided to go double
Yeah,
op
I
on like
can't lie. I was
overtime.
pretty pissed that they allowed Hooksy to do that when Hooksy is
I
like
was really fucking pissed, but shout
awful.
out to Hooksy because he actually did something.
So I was
But I
pretty
will say
pissed
like
about that.
this is an example of us. At least we tried something different that rather than just saying, okay, yeah, we're just gonna wait for them to come to us. We had a lot of good aggressive CT sides where we took like heavy mid control. Protocols were really good when we lost the pick or even got the pick, right? Um, but yeah, this is one round I wanted to point out for that kind of aspect of you can see the vision of what we wanted to do. It just didn't go our way, right?
Yeah,
And I think it also shows that the little things, especially in the game of CS, are like super important. You might not think that George not fully swinging that angle is important, but In hindsight, it really is because that would have opened Hex to swing with him. And maybe they still both die, right? But the way that ran down was that because Hex couldn't immediately swing off of that, just made it look clunky, and he was kind of just left in the app's kitchen with nothing to do but just pray to God that he can get one, but he wasn't able.
Yeah, yeah. So the next round I'm pulling up here is round number 22. And this round I pulled up because they pick up the pace here. And the reason why I want to show a round where they're picking up the pace is because I felt like one of the flaws that EG had on their T sides with all the maps was that sometimes they would just be a little bit, they were just too slow. And
They
because they
took
were
their
too
sweet
slow,
ass time.
yeah, and because they were too slow, it allowed the CTs to understand where the Ts were probably going and have a defense there by the time that they were hitting the bomb site. So it's great that your utility usage is good, and sometimes it bailed them out of situations. Unfortunately, there are times where they're just not fast enough in their decision making. So I like that they changed the pace up because I did think that when they were going for the fast plays every once in a while, they typically worked. I'm not saying that they should do more fast plays, but I
Right.
think it shows that, like, okay, they just need to be more decisive on a decision, which is, the stuff that, on the nuke game, for example, that outside round that they ended up losing in that clutch, that was a round where they had to get at a game plan, and it was a fluid game plan, but they were very decisive with their decision making on what to do and when it was going to happen. So more of that, less of the, okay, we're kind of walking up here, but we're really not kind of really too sure if this is where we want to go, and just getting a little bit, too hesitant
Yeah.
and not committing to the bomb site. So this is a change of pace round that I really enjoyed from EG. Heavy, a really fast B hit here to throw off G2 at 12-9. A pretty big round for G2's money. You can see their money is not very good at the moment. A very important round for them to win. It's not the fastest round in the world, but it's going to be a B split. Great flashbang, allowing them to get a pick on Munazi peeking out connector. And Walco actually is just playing so well this
Yeah.
map, he gets two. And at this point, that's the immediate, okay, let's head out B right now. Great flashbangs. Hooksy had no chance. Again, another example of their utility being really strong. And the round's basically over at this point. Even with Nico getting that kill, there's no chance for them to win. So
Yeah.
yeah,
This was a really good round. I
go
think
ahead.
them having the protocols of okay, we killed Monacy already. It's like okay, so that means there's only really Nico left. And I think the casters even pointed out that it was interesting to see EG not stray away from fighting Monacy and
Hmm.
Nico in mid,
Yes.
but really like taking it to him, right?
Yep.
Because they pointed out that a lot of teams when they play G2, especially on Mirage, is they know Hooksy plays B. They know Hooksy is not the most mechanically gifted player
Sure.
known, so they're going to exploit that. But EG was like not afraid to just stick to their game plan and say, hey, our game plan is to take a lot of mid control, which can give us options on A and B splits. We know Nico and Monacy play there, but like fuck it, we're still going to do it, right? We're going to trust in our game plan, trust in our aim that we can pull this off, even though we're facing two of the most mechanically gifted players in the world,
Yes.
and not be extremely predictable and just hit Hooksy as hard as possible. Which I think is one negative of G2, right? Is that you always have to see Hooksy is either with somebody or somebody. You almost Hooksy is left alone on like extremely rare occasion, right? Which I think has allowed a lot of teams, especially EG, notice on a lot of their A hits or even late B hits, is that they're able to pull away that player that is with Hooksy to support him, who I think is Hunter, right? Who plays Cat typically.
Yes.
But even exploit the fact that Hunter has to stick with Hooksy for a certain amount of time before he's essentially allowed to leave. So they're able to know that there's max 2 mid, max 2 A. We can take a lot more ground on these spots of the map. So
Yeah.
I think, this map, we should have fucking won. We
Definitely.
really should have.
Yep.
But I think, again, we shocked a lot of people
Yeah, we looked
coming
really,
into
really
this
good. We looked
event.
like the better team in this series overall. If you look at
Oh,
all three
for
maps.
sure. You take
So
away Nico having 40 more kills than the next person on their team, and we won this fucking
yeah.
right. Even at that, you just change a couple fucking rounds on this map, and we won the series. You know,
Yeah. Um,
but
this is the last round I have to point out. This is again kind of going back to that point of sometimes just overthinking things. Um, And look, again, I could have picked out 8 rounds from all these maps where everything is going beautifully and everything is going fantastic, and pointing them out and saying, say la vie, we're a great team. But I wanted to showcase rounds where we have good, everything is going well, we are doing things well, but just things are falling apart a little bit with the chemistry, because I think that's something where I'm taking, we can take the positives and the negatives, because I do feel like to some extent a lot of people are taking this and going, EG, look at them, they're looking great. And let's not look at any of the games and pay attention to them and, oh yeah, sure, they got destroyed by some of these teams, but like, they're young, who cares, it doesn't matter. And it's like, look, okay, it does matter to some extent. You want to see the contents of the game, you want to see competitiveness, you want to see improvement and whatnot. So I'm not just going to pick out all these, all the great rounds. I'm going to pick out rounds where things are going poorly as well. This is just a round where I think they overthink things a little bit too much. Not making decisions as fluidly as you'd like to see. Junior gets a great pick here on the Monazi. I believe there is a trade frag here. Yes, Nico kills Walko over towards mid, and so now you're looking at a 4v4. Based on that information, Bomb is heading a little bit over towards B. They're just kind of holding to see if there's going to be any other kinds of pushes
And then
from this
Junior gets
B,
this
which
frag
yes, which
on.
which is good because they're watching for this mid aggression. They think that's where it's going to come from, and they are correct with this. I believe Junior, right. I believe you're right. Junior does get
I
this kill. I
don't know
think.
if it's Nico or Hunter.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. You can see EG looking for information, trying to figure out where they think people are going to be playing from. Great shot onto
Okay.
Nico. That's a tough kill to get.
Oh, this is the fucking round, dude. Where
Yep.
oh man, Jaden has this late
So
lurk.
this is a round where I'm just they don't know all the details, but at this point they've just killed Nico over towards mid. This is
They
one of
know
those where I
Hoopsy's
just
gonna be on B.
yeah, it's just one of those where I would have liked to have seen maybe one or two more people go with Junior out here towards the B bomb site. Um, this is just unfortunate how this unfolds, and I think this is just a round where they maybe overthink things, debating on whether or not they want to go back towards A. Junior team flashes George there. Automatic gets a great kill, but doesn't expect Hunter to be there. And
And
now
now if
you've got this
Jaden would have just
situation.
waited.
Yep.
Fuck.
So just an unfortunate situation. I just think they overthink things a little bit too much on this round. I think they could have just gone B. Obviously, they're probably maybe thinking Hooksy and Hunter could potentially both be there, but I think no matter where you go, you're expecting some kind of 2v2.
Yeah.
And with Hooksy being on the bomb site, I think you might just honestly be better off making that decision. Um,
Yeah.
so I don't know. I just think they were kind of still floating whether or not they still wanted to go A, and I think if they maybe should have just committed to the B hit a little bit stronger than just sending George out there to, I don't know, find a
Yeah.
kill. It didn't really seem like he had a whole lot of support to hit the B bomb site. So that's
Right.
the only time I bring that up. I will say, in terms of what rounds were going like in this game, um, I still thought a lot of people were saying, or I heard people say something along the lines of like, yeah, well, when it got to OT, I just didn't have any faith in EG. I think they were going to probably lose the game. I think that's fair to say from the experience standpoint of things. But if you actually break down the rounds, I think the first 2 rounds of OT easily should have gone in EG's favor, but they throw those rounds as well. And so
Yeah.
yes, I do think the last 2 rounds they should have lost, but I think the first two they definitely had a good. They should have won those rounds, but they ultimately lose both of those. So I would just say a tough loss to swallow. Arguably, though, would they have beaten Navi? I don't think so. But I
Right.
think overall, this is a really nice showing from EG. Very happy um, with how the series went, with how the games went. I thought it was great to watch. Heartbreaking. I didn't actually get to watch Mirage live. Actually, I was watching a movie, but I watched Nuke. Actually, in the movie theater right before the movie started, I watched Nuke, the end of Nuke.
Mhm.
So I was freaking the fuck out while in a movie theater, can't speak during like the previews, or it wasn't even the previews. It was it was early enough to where you could still be on your phone.
Right.
And I was just kind of like silently losing my shit as I'm watching them, like as I watch that round where Junior misses the op shot and Walker's missing that kill, and I'm just kind of losing my mind as I'm sitting in the theater. Um, And then the
Yeah.
Mirage game, I knew they lost at 19-15 before I watched it, but I was just watching back essentially to see what went wrong. And when I saw they were up 8-4 on CT side, I was like, damn, no way
Yeah,
they
you're like,
lose three
yeah.
rounds here. And then they get to the T side and they're looking really good on T side, and I'm just like, oh my god. There
You're
were
like, oh
rounds where
my
I was
god, it's like
watching.
15-10, and you're like, oh dude, surely we close it, right? And
Yeah, but there
it's
were rounds where I'm like, okay, well, EGG's got to buy here, EG's got to buy here. The score line is, I don't fucking know. Like, let's just say, for sake of example, 13-7 or something. And I'm
right.
thinking in my head, like, okay, well, this is going to be the round where G2 wins, and they start making a little bit of a comeback, and then EG pushes it eventually, a couple rounds later to a 15 score line, and they would win those rounds. And I was like, okay, well, like, dude, EG's in a fantastic position. How do they lose this game? And yeah, it was tough to watch. It was hard for me to be motivated to watch overtime when I knew they lost every round in overtime, but I
Yeah.
had to. Um, but overall, I would say a good showing at Blast. I would have obviously it sucks going out last place again. Blast is just the event where we go out last place. We go out last place pretty much every single Blast. But I think the showing here was much better. I think there's a lot of potential, particularly with the flashbangs and the utility usage. Both were really strong for EG. Those
Yeah,
are
I
the
mean
best
the
team.
utility usage for
Yeah,
EG this whole event was
very
just
strong.
really fucking solid. Again, in comparison with the last team, right? I mean,
Yes,
this team is
this is
as
better.
the caster would say, it's a completely different team, which is true. Like we all know that at this point,
Yeah,
but it's just better. I mean, you can just tell that they have better chemistry than the last team did. Obviously, not everything is fully flushed out. Having Tim in place of Rush, I don't know who it was. It might have been Henry G who had mentioned that like maybe like in short term Rush would have been better off the bat, but long term Automatic is clearly the better option over Rush. It'll just take a little bit more time for Automatic to settle into this roster. Now that he's had to go through, I don't know how many Automatics now had to go through so many fucking roster changes. It's weird to say that Tim is now the longest standing EG member
yep.
currently playing for the roster, but um, no, I think this team has the potential to be like maybe not NA's best team, but almost like North America's team in itself, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely them in
You
complexity.
know,
I think
Rhino Dust 2
complexity
is getting on my
probably.
fucking nerves talking about Liquid and fucking up their
Yeah,
ass about
I do find it
how great
hilarious that
Liquid
Team Liquid
is.
is yeah, before Team Liquid
Liquid's EU at
plays, Team
this
Liquid
point.
is a trader. They're traders, and I can't believe they're going
Fuck
European
Team Liquid, then they
if
win. They're like,
Situation
oh,
wins.
we've always loved Team Liquid.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know. Yeah,
like
it's
fuck
outrageous.
off, dude. Like,
Yeah, it's
and it's
outrageous.
not just him,
No, there's other
but
people as well, but yeah.
there's hundreds of other people. And you look at complexity. They have JT, they have Halzerk, right? So
Yeah, yeah. I guess
are
that's a
they
good point. I
even
didn't think
really
about that.
NA, right?
I didn't think of
And
that, but yeah,
I
I
think we
think
could be NA's team, dude. We really could.
we could be. Yeah,
And don't get me wrong, you hear Team Liquid and you think NA, but that's just not the reality of it anymore.
yeah.
Is that they're just not a North American team. They look really good, but I think we could be. Dude, I really wish we would have played Complexity at some point because I would have been really
It would have been
interested to
interesting.
see
Yeah, interesting game to watch
how
for
that would
sure.
go. But
But yeah, I don't know. I think it's looking solid for now. It's time to see improvement. They're still boot camping over in Europe. They're going to be boot
yeah,
camping for a couple of some extra
I
time, which I'm a
think
big fan of.
yeah, I think
Um,
they're staying
they're
to
staying for the
boot camp
Thunder
while
pick.
Cologne's going on.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
that
because
for sure.
Cologne is up next, and I think they're staying to boot camp
I
or
think
at
that's a good
least
decision. Yeah.
get practice in while Cologne is happening.
Big fan of that. That's exactly what these guys need.
Yeah,
It's very this happens in League of Legends as well. Jojo Pian actually just did this. Mid laner, he did this in between the spring and summer splits. Look, Korea is the best region, or one of the best regions. China's also really good. In League of Legends, and Jojo had a really poor spring split. Got motivated, went to Korea, grinded against the best players in the world, came back and is looking insane. You get better when you're surrounded by better players. That's just how it
yeah.
is. Especially if you're one of these pro players, you already have the talent within you. It's constantly playing against those better players, learning how they play instead of how the NA teams play, and that's what's going to
Mhm.
get you better. So I'm glad they're boot camping. I believe they're going to be playing in some Thunder Pick qualifier. Um, but I
I
don't
do
know because
not know.
I don't see them on the list. But I thought that was because originally they were invited to the event. Then it was said that
Well,
they
now
were
it's
going
all
to go in
changed, right?
qualifiers.
Well,
Yeah, it was
it
said they were
went
going to go
from
in
like
qualifier, and now
it
they're
went
not.
from being able to invite people to hold on now. Like, is that really fair to?
I think they didn't do it potentially due to the conflict of interest. Although technically, if they want to follow up on conflict of interest, they shouldn't even have EG playing at the event. I don't know if that's what's happened, but I thought the last time that I had heard about it, it was that they were going to play in the European qualifier, but I
I
don't
don't
see them
know.
listed there, so I don't know if that's actually happening. If it is happening, then they're playing potentially next week, but I don't know. It doesn't say anything on HLTV, but I saw there was a report on
Yeah, I
Steam or
don't know
something.
because when you
So
go to like THUNDERPICK World Championships page, they're not in it. M80 is. Shout out to M80.
yeah,
Um, but it doesn't. But it shows like Heroic and Ints are invited, and there's a couple other invited teams. But
yeah,
I don't know. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not really too upset about this whole conflict of interest because there's teams that are sponsored by like GGBet, and then GGBet also sponsors like Pro League or like Blast and stuff. So I'm not. I think it was kind of whack that they also had EG Gold in it. I thought that was kind of weird. I think we knew that EG Gold roster wasn't actually going to qualify, but I think that
yeah.
um,
I'm trying to look up to see if there's anything on here about
their next official,
EG,
according
but
to
I think it's Pro
HLTV,
League,
is
right?
Pro League,
Yeah, which is
and
in
we
a
will be
month.
playing against Ints in a month. But this group, man, we could do well in this group. It's Ints, MIBR, Mouse, Monty, Big, and Heroic.
Oh, they're
Obviously,
the upper
Heroic being
groups.
the obviously Heroic being the big
Yeah,
fucking
that's the tough one.
stone wall there.
That
But
team and probably
and Ants
Ents.
probably, but
Yeah, Ensign Heroic are definitely the favorites in this group. But the other teams, very beatable.
we could beat
MIBR,
MIBR.
extremely beatable. Mouse,
We
definitely
extreme
beatable.
beatable. I
Um,
mean, Mouse is just Mouse NXT.
yeah,
It's literally just Mouse NXT.
yeah, plus Gym Hat.
And then
Uh,
yeah, and then Big obviously they did
they look
pretty
okay, I
decent. They look
guess.
okay. Monty looked
I don't even know
not as good as
they're
they
not even on the
do
same
when they
roster, right?
had yeah. Um,
Yeah, they have
but
Bro
no,
now, so I don't know what
yeah,
that
they got
team's gonna
Bro.
look like. But yeah, it's a decent group. I mean, compared to the other groups,
I mean, yeah, we
you
could
know,
have been fucking like Greyhound, right? Greyhound has to play with Vitality,
yeah,
Astralis, NIP, Furia, Movistar, and Gamer Legion. Gamer Legion doesn't even know they're. Oh wait, no, they do know they're for
yeah. I think they
alive.
finally have their
Shout out to
shout out to Nealon.
shout out to Zanzar, my
Yeah,
boy.
man, dude's on
Nealon
Gamer
got
Legion.
another gig.
Hopefully,
We'll have
guys.
to
Well,
keep eyes on Gamer
Cologne, yeah,
Legion
man. I
because
got
of
a team
Nealon.
to support in Cologne. Gamer Legion.
Gamer Legion right there,
Gamer
baby.
Legion.
I mean, I don't know how he
Yeah,
did it,
man.
but Zanzar just went from an out of 30 team to a top 30 team
Yeah, for now, until
for now.
most likely I don't. Without MA, it's gonna be tough,
Yeah, that MA and Shue, yeah, it'll be a little.
but we'll see.
Uh,
Maybe they'll surprise us.
yeah, you never know. Chaos is not a bad player, neither is Acorn. So.
Yep, yep.
But all
So
right, I think that's all I got.
yeah, I think that just about wraps up everything. I don't think I have too much else here. So long. Ooh, sorry, long episode, but that's because we're covering
A
literally
lot of
three
shit.
best of threes, three best of threes, and yeah, just a lot of stuff going on. So um, lots to cover. Obviously, I want to continue doing these VOD things, but we'll probably it won't be as bad as having to review three best of threes. You know what I mean? It'll be a little bit simpler, and maybe we'll
Yeah.
be able to then pick out more rounds. Let me know if you guys like the idea. I think it's all right. I took some time to make all this stuff. I think it's good, and yeah. So we'll see. We'll see. I don't know too much is going to happen in this next week, but you know, if anything does, we'll obviously be there to talk about it. And yeah, I think in terms of a recap for the episode and overall what's to expect from this coming up week, Dota 2 roster might potentially not be in what was it, Riyadh Masters or whatever. They might not be in that event because they kind of are sucking recently, so that kind of sucks. League of Legends team going to be playing in LCS playoffs very soon, so that's going to be exciting to watch. Um, Valorant Game Changers, I believe, is starting this week as well. So that's the playoff bracket. So gonna follow them, see how they do. Don't know about EG Gold. Don't know when Impact starts. Can't tell you anything on that.
Impact, I think, starts soon, so I think their roster has to get finalized.
Okay. All right. Well, maybe some
I
EG gold.
think
Maybe not this week, but soon.
yeah.
Um, and then
Impact
yeah,
start. Oh, I lied, dude. Impact's not till like September.
never
They
mind.
got time.
Wait till
They
September.
got they got a shitload of time. Unless I guess there could be the like one off like impact tourneys and stuff like that, or impact like tourneys that pop up every now and then. But
Yeah, yeah. So we'll see. If, maybe EG will play in some online stuff. We'll be able to see some games from there. Hopefully, there's a couple of live matches that are between now and Pro League
I'd
that
love
we
for
can
us to get
cover.
into a CCT somehow.
Yeah, I think that would be cool. I think that would be nice to watch them play in an event like that. Um, yeah, and we'll just have to wait and see. But overall, pretty happy about, for the most part, pretty happy with how things are going. So, yeah, thank you guys all for watching as always, and leave us some thoughts in the comments. Do you like the new idea with the VOD review? Do you think I am a terrible person at my job and that this sucks and that I should never do this again and that I don't know anything about Counter Strike? It's a perfectly valid opinion.
Yes.
Um, and yeah, see you guys next week.